Calypsonians get serious. Calypsonians get real. Cause we must let our songs reflect how the country feels. People are under pressure, especially the poor black man. And wanna cracking jokes like if one is comedians. Now tell me, how can we be writing nation-building songs when the list of people's complaints is so very long? If you don't know what your role is, look, keep out of the tent, cause the present circumstances demand that we must comment. We sang about Deperanta, we sang about free. We lambast Arthur and Thompson, and of course Sandy. When it came to front the short Lord, we crucified him. Now it's clear to me that Calypsonians afraid me a motley. That's why they always bring in middle of the road commentary. And the Kaiso fans don't remember the melody. One of them even misuse the Olympic symbol. But she should know nothing can enhance second-rate material. So get serious, Calypsonians. Get serious. La da da, la da da. Calypsonians get serious. Calypsonians go brave. But we need to be consistent with how we behave. Many people are suffering, so don't act like one don't know. And for history's sake, it must be recorded in Kaiso. It is true that we are facing censorship, but we have to use our skills to push back on it. Those who seek to curry favor and are frightened to offend. Truth be told, this Kaiso art form is misrepresented by the pen. We sang about Deperanta, we sang about free. We lambast Arthur and Thompson, and of course Sandy. When it came to front the short Lord, we demolished him. Now it's clear to me that Calypsonians afraid me a motley, whose government hasn't addressed crime and violence through the years. And now they're at funerals shedding Hollywood-style tears. They take we land and give it away to them Africans, but can't find any to give we people who still slaving on plantations. So get serious, Calypsonians, get serious. La da da da, la da da da. Calypsonians get serious. And tell Carol Roberts this. Commentary will be poor once the BLP in office. Cause who ain't afraid of me are getting handouts from her government. That is why they're singing so much nonsense in the tents. We've heard songs with titles like Africa in Me. That's what you sing when they rent your tents and your chairs frequently. And if you're writing bits and pieces of crap for the juniors, everybody knows that you are rewarded with the crop dollars. We sang about Deperanta, we sang about free. We lambast Arthur and Thompson, and of course Sandy. When come to front the short Lord, we massacre him. Now these jokers, aka Calypsonians, afraid me a motley. Because of water got some people can't flush after they pee. But it's climate change that gets the most attention from she. And it's time that all nations acknowledge our country is under siege. And we are witnessing what happens when you put mice to watch cheese. So get serious, Calypsonians. Get serious.
And a great, great good evening to every single one of you joining us today, Monday, June the 23rd, on the Marcia Week show, immediately following the national anthem, as is our tradition on this Monday evening. We will say together our national pledge. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. I want to repeat that if I can. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. I want to welcome all of you joining us this evening on this another Marcia Week show. And we're happy to be coming to you from Barbados, wherever you're viewing us. I know there are those of you that join us from the UK, join us from New York, join us from Canada and other islands of the Caribbean. And we want to welcome all of you, and particularly, of course, we want to welcome our local loyal opposition, sons and daughters all. And so I want to take a few minutes just to welcome you individually, if I can. Judy Jilts, you're always so faithful with us in Taroni Hall. I'm getting used now to linking the names and the faces together. Monica Ince, a pleasure to have you with us again tonight. And Flo Joe Maloney, again, whenever I see your name, I remember that really tremendous sprinter from the United States. You always remind me of her when I see that, Flo Joe Maloney. Shirley, a pleasure to have you with us again tonight. His Harris and Marva Hunt, Ryan Rock, and Chantel Williams. Good evening to all of you, Bajan Boy, Queen D, Sir Alfred Benjamin. Great to have you on again tonight, Sir Alfred, joining us from Brooklyn, New York. Patrick Designs, Jefferson Sobers, and Marcia Miller. Again, great to be able to link the names on the faces. So good to have all of you tonight. Matthew Brown, Alvin. I hope that's not Alvin. Alvin. Anyhow, let me let me leave that. Laurie, Bob, and Dalton Spencer. Pleasure to have you on tonight. Marcia, my faithful Marcia, you saw, and it was so nice to meet you as well, Marcia. But you saw the national anthem played right up over the 200 mark. Okay, so we are on schedule for tonight. Matthew Sainsbury, Sir Dale Worrell. Oh my goodness, a joy to have all of you joining. M. Gardner, Matthew Sainsbury, Champ. I like that, Champ. Good evening to you as well, Sandra Price. Uh, yeah, we'll see. Sandra Pierce, I'm sorry. Lucinda Aline, Lyric Lewis Jilts, Born Again 48. A pleasure to have you joining us again tonight as well. Ryan Rock, again, another pleasure to have you with us this evening. Sandra Charles, Cami, and let me just run down Jacqueline Ward. Good to have you, Easy D. Yes, thank you so much, Easy. Bonnie Springer, good evening to you as well. And welcome all of you to this evening Marcia Week show. I know my time is going to be tight because I do like to have that national anthem played, and I do like that to state the pledge. And I'll just try to touch on a couple of things before we get moving in the show tonight. Obviously, we are going to be engaging the subject of crime and gun violence and gangs in Barbados tonight. But before we get to that, I just want to touch on a couple of subjects. First of all, I want to talk about this upcoming meeting on Thursday evening. I believe it's going to be at the Queen's Park Steel Shed. I believe so. I stand to be corrected, but I'm sure my team will let me know quickly, where they will be discussing matters to do with the symbols of Barbados and some considerations relative to our symbols and our national anthem. And I want to say this evening, leave them alone. Stop trying to erase the history and legacy of the founding father of our nation and find a way to determine your own legacy and your own contribution to the country. But leave our national flag, leave our pledge, leave our coat of arms, leave our national anthem alone. It has been what has established us as an independent country, and we do not want it changed. You tried this with the independence, changing it to Republic Day, and the country stood up and said, no can do. I want as many of us as possible to turn up on Thursday evening, I believe it's 5:30, and make our voices heard and our desires clear. Leave Barbados's symbols alone. Why are you even discussing it when there are so many more critical matters in the country to address? Most of all, the safety and security of our people. As a government, that is your number one responsibility, the safety and security of our people. And later on, we'll be touching more extensively on this matter within the context of some statements that have been made by a couple of the members of parliament, a couple of the ministers, and the deputy prime minister will be engaging that. Judy, that is turning up at I think it's the Queen's Park Steel Shed. I believe so. I think they'll let me know this. That will be Thursday. I think it's the 26th, Monday, 23rd, 24th, 26th, yes, to discuss. They won't interfere with the symbols, Enigma. Yes, I'm so sorry. I don't have the link to show you here. and to pull it up. And if I can get it, I will try to pull it up during the evening, that you can turn up. You can turn up and let your voice be heard concerning this matter. I understand that there is even a focus primarily on the second stanza of the national anthem, because in the New Republic draft, they want to replace God with creator. So whatever you think creator is, it is, and that is what, those are some of the changes that they want to engage in. Queen D, I would not be surprised in the least, because they always come to the country after they have decided what they're going to do. But I want to let you know of this, and if I can locate it before the show is out, I will put it up here for you to follow through on. Okay, so I want to make sure that you pay attention to that matter, so that your voices will be heard. I hope tonight that Dave will be able to pull up a clip concerning what was expressed to the then government by the current government when it was in opposition relative to crime and violence, but we will deal with that later on in the show. Let me move on to my second aspect tonight, and that is the rumor, if it's a rumor, I am hearing concerning Elizabeth Thompson as candidate for president of Barbados. Now, I want to say that is a very dangerous precedent to set. And the reason I say that is because when you have the and I'm aware of a number of things. Just let me know that. Let me let you know that when you have a lackey of the caliber of Miss Thompson as the president, where the president has the oversight, and I took the time to investigate it. The president has the oversight fundamentally of the executive, the prime minister, the cabinet, the police, the defense force, the director of public prosecutions. Laws passed through parliament have to go to the Senate. From the Senate, they have to be proclaimed and signed by the president. And I can see that position. If Miss Thompson is put in that position, I can see every single independent aspect of our separation of powers coming under the control of the Barbados Labour Party. And that is very, very concerning, and it ought to be concerning to every citizen, every single citizen in Barbados. These independent branches of government should be separate, and what falls under the purview of the president, where the prime minister does not have the power to influence. The president does things at the advice of the prime minister and the leader of the opposition, but the prime minister does not have the full control of those areas. It's more administrative rather than legislative, and we must push back at this. I'm telling you, that's the rumor I've heard, because the current president, whom I know, and I have the greatest of respect for Sandra Mason. I will tell you that. I've known Sandra for many, many years. She's often been mistaken for my sister and vice versa. They look so similar. I'm not going into that. But, and I have always admired her posture, her candor, and the fact that she actually has the capacity to speak independently on occasions of government. And I refer to a couple of instances with regards to the matter of the discipline of children and so on. I remember her making a comment that if you were to talk to my mother back in those days, you'd be looking, your head would be swung around and be looking backwards. A comment like that she made in reference to matters of discipline and correction. And I have known her for some time, and I have the greatest respect for our current president. But if the rumor I'm hearing is correct, I am going to say that we have a real crisis on our hands. And when that happens, you have already moved into a one-party state. You have already moved into a police state where the one party is controlling all the aspects of all the aspects of the governance of this country. And I want to alert you to this so that you can raise your voices. And I don't understand why Barbadians are so hesitant to come out and march with Marcia. As a matter of fact, I believe there's going to be a motorcade uh, upcoming. I'm just looking back through my notes here. If you could quickly send that to me, Mars, that I can have an update of it. But there is an upcoming motorcade. There it is, St. Philip, get thee behind me, Satan motorcade and prayer drive. If you could just make it a little bigger, Dave. That is this coming Sunday, June the 29th, starting at Chanel Supermarket Car Park, St. Martin, ending at 6 Roads near Nichols Bakery from 1:30 to 6 p.m. There are going to be ministers of the gospel, community leaders, fellow residents. We're inviting you all to bring out your family, and we are asking for your support. As I've said before, and we have often indicated, we have no right-wing group in the United States funding the Marcia Weeks show or anything to do with the Marcia Weeks show, the marches or the motorcades or anything. So we're going to ask you to support this motorcade, not just with your presence, um, um, not just with your presence, but with your finances, because things have to be paid for, and we don't want Marcia to be left with any bills. Yes, Shirley is a lovely lady, and there is no way Liz can walk in her shoes. Nowhere. Yes. Okay. So we want to make sure that you're aware of all these matters. All right. And then the next thing I want to touch on very quickly is this climate school. Very quickly, from her own personal charity. Now, we had no revelation of the assets of a single parliamentarian going into parliament. None. Now, I cannot say when this charity was established or anything. I don't know. All I'm saying is that we do not know what a single parliamentarian's assets were going into parliament. Not a single one. All right. And what we are looking at the moment is a situation where you have persons who we don't know what their assets were going in, and we're not going to know what they are coming out. And this is deeply concerning. Furthermore, this whole matter of, I touch on it. I don't want to get into the matter of climate change, but I have watched several congressional committees addressing this matter of the 0.001% or something of that nature of carbon dioxide in the world's atmosphere, that these people are telling us that if we do not change the uses of fossil fuels and whatnot, that the world would die in just a short period of time. I don't know where in the name of God they get this information from. Now we're hearing the Prime Minister talking about methane releases. Last I heard this mention, it was Ocasio-Cortez, that insane representative out of New York, talking about cows releasing the methane into the atmosphere and having to reduce the number of cows. And all that plays into Mr. Gates' idea of the production of artificial meat, because he has got all of the patents and that type of stuff relative to that. All right, now, but you guys really don't know what's going on, man. You guys really don't know what is going on. It's out there in the public. It is in the media. It is out there in the newspapers. Guys, read it. I am not making this up. Okay. Anyhow, we got this foolishness about methane. And like I said, the last I heard was this insane Ocasio-Cortez in New York talking a bunch of nonsense about cows and having to reduce a number of cows so that the methane doesn't get into the atmosphere and destroy it. Listen, this earth isn't going to be destroyed by anybody other than Jesus Christ. Let me let that lay there, and I'm done on that matter. And then very quickly, since I have just about 5 minutes left, um, this matter, two things I'm going to tie together. The matter of reporting false information or misinformation, and the matter of wiretapping legislation, which I will tie in with the cybercrime bill. Everything is being set up to try to legalize, pass into law the cybercrime bill, to control what is said, what is released. There's nobody who released more misinformation than this government and the governments of the world during the pandemic. And now, post-pandemic, it has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that all of these governments in the world released false information concerning the virus and the treatments. That is a fact. That is not a misinformation or false information. When the CDC indicated that we should not be using remdesivir anymore, it was being used at Harrison's at North Point or Harrison's Point, wherever it is up here in Barbados. When and today, Dr. Maloney sitting in front of a congressional committee with regards to the usage of certain medical treatments, now has established clearly the millions of people who have been affected physically and have died as a result of the pandemic's treatments. I'm being very careful because I want to protect Marcia's show. Now we all have the truth. And you expect us to believe anything a government has to say? That is why across the world, people no longer trust their governments. And in Barbados, that is now the same. We have a situation here that we will be moving into tonight to do with matters of crime. Over the weekend, this is insane. Over the weekend, between Friday, I don't even know what the count is. To be honest, I've lost track of the count. Shootings in Cave, in where? Nelson Street, motorcyclists riding past, spraying people with bullets in buses, all this kind of insanity. This is madness. And I realize that G.E. King, I'm going to slip out and come back quite shortly and see if I can get a better link with the show. I will do that. I'm sure the others will make it possible for me to get back in quite easily. And now we hear, thank you, Matthew, about domestic terrorism. When you begin to talk about terrorism, what you are doing is you are setting the country up for Emergency Powers Act again to be implemented, locking down people again, that type of thing. You see, we have to be ahead of the game. We have to be ahead of the game. All right. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to bring in my first guest. And when I bring my first guest in, I'm going to take a break out. What I'm going to do at the moment is just to turn off my background. Let me see if I can do that. I will turn off my virtual background and you guys can tell me, because I am using that virtual background. And you guys can tell me if it improves. I just have my green screen behind me. And if it improves, well, then I'll stay in and I'll have to work on it. So you can let me know if that improves my thing, because I understand that these backgrounds eat up a lot of bandwidth. And so if that is better, if that's a bit better, you let me know. And I'll just leave it like that for the rest of the show. But and I'm just watching for your comments. So let me welcome my first guest, Mr. Glyne Murray. Glyne, welcome to the week show tonight. I am so thrilled to have you joining with me. I don't often have this privilege and honor of having illustrious individuals such as yourself joining me on my show. And not that because your record,
you're
your
breaking up,
record.
sir.
I'm still breaking up. Okay,
Yeah, okay.
okay. Your record is deserving of the comment I've made. You have been personal assistant to several of our prime ministers. You have operated in some of the highest offices in the country, and I consider it a tremendous honor to be on the show with you tonight. So let me welcome you to the Marcy Week show this evening.
Thank you, Ferdy, and the pleasure is mutual. I'm glad to be on with you. We don't get to do it very often, but it's always a memorable occasion. And just for the sake of all the things that I've done professionally, I think the thing that I treasure most is having been a minister for 9 years, because I was able to do some significant things that are still enjoying today. But thank you very much for the glimpse into my background. I'm here to work with you on this program tonight.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So let's see what you have for us tonight, Glenn.
Well, my topic tonight is the public should not do government's job. The public should not do government's job. And I'm saying that in the context that, throughout history, man has shown himself to be a social and political animal. In other words, he needs to be in groupings, to get along, to be socialized, to advance, to cooperate. He needs to be political in order to get things done for the development of society. And we've come to the point where, as a democratic society, as a liberal democratic society, as we're in Barbados, we have a democracy since 1951, in which your only qualification now is to be of a certain age, from 21 to 18. All the disqualifications of gender and wealth and income have gone through there. So now we have a liberal democracy, like I said, in which people volunteer themselves as independents, as individuals, or their parties volunteer these people to be our candidates, to be our representatives, and ask us to vote for them on the basis that they have they're the best possible people, the best possible quality, the best possible ideas. So that is what they come to with, to sell themselves, and we buy it. And we, over the years, we bought it. Between 1951, since 1951, it's alternated. This choice have alternated between the Barbados Labour Party and the Democratic Labour Party as to who should form the government and who would at various times convince the public that they are best suited and qualified. And this happened in 2018, that they presented a slate of candidates in a program that impressed the public of Barbados that they were best qualified to run the country and look after our affairs. And that was against a background where we had a history of governments that have performed well in that regard, all advancing the interest of Barbados. Some doing different things, but all in all, I would think we can honestly say that both parties have contributed significantly to the development of Barbados. We've trusted their judgment, something more than others or less than others, but there was a certain understanding and familiarity, and that they were here to perform at the highest level. So therefore, when that goes away, especially since 2018, and now, as today's events would have indicated, like you said, a government's primary objective and goal is to create a safe, stable, secure society for its people. Because without that stability and security and safety, none of the other sectors or institutions in Barbados in the country can perform creditably. And this is true to all societies. That is their number one job. If you want to see an example of a society which had not had the benefits of that stability and consistency of security, just look at Haiti as an example. So therefore, that is their primary objective, primary goal, primary responsibility. And of late, if I would say that based on the performance of the government, based on what forced the hand of the Commissioner of Police to come to the public today, that the government has failed in that number one responsibility, because they have not been able to show any indication that they're bringing crime under control. Crime gives the stability and security that we need, that we crave, that we voted for, and in that way, they've come short, very, very, very short. So therefore, in a way, I was glad to see that the police have come to the public to give some kind of information. It's something I've been calling for. I think the last 2 times I was on air, I said the police, not the AG, not the Prime Minister, well, not Minister Kurt Humphrey, because he's yet to speak significantly, or even though he's Minister of Crime Prevention, but the Commissioner of Police, who operationalizes the work of the Barbados Police Service, should come to the public. I was hoping it would come in a more quiet environment, but I think that I think the police force has been overcome by events. Those horrifying events we saw around, being paraded around and shown around Barbados on social media, especially. That has disturbed. That has come at a time to disturb Barbados even more, because of all my years, I've never seen Barbados so disturbed, so unhappy, so untrustworthy, so anxious to get home, so stay in their homes, trust nobody, trust anything, because they're not settled, they're not stable, they don't have confidence in themselves and the surroundings, and again, therefore, which is a failure on the part of the government, and to do that, and so therefore, when you hear the constant calls, even as recently yesterday in the at a BLP branch meeting in Christchurch East, where this whole of country approach, where we, the public, are now expected to find the solutions to the crime, where we, the public, are now expected to find solutions to the problems of education and health and water. In other words, those are all responsible of the government, for which they are paid handsomely, for which they're rewarded, for which they get the pomp and circumstance of office, the prestige. But now they have somehow or other, unlike other Barbadian leaderships and governments, it is as though they've thrown a hand up in the air and said, help us, please. But how can my major problem with that attitude is, how can an ordinary Barbadian like myself, not familiar with the information that government should have in office? You have civil service, you have consultants, you have international organizations, you have recourse to information that the ordinary Barbadian does not. And if you have access to that information, have still not been able to come up with credible, effective, competent decisions, in this instance we talk about crime or any other matter, how could people who operate in not knowing nearly as much as you think, how can they make proper decisions that they'll be just shooting in the dark and it'll be a hit or miss attitude? Therefore, I think I don't think it is responsibility. I don't think government should pass its responsibility for doing things in Barbados onto the public to help them out of it. And like I said, I valued my time as a minister of government. I would have been horrified and embarrassed to be able to, none of my colleagues while I was there every day, to come to the public and say, we don't know what to do, either in words or action, because that you are paid to find out what to do and get it done. And to me, that's the most embarrassing and humiliating exercise for a party, particularly one which had prior to 2018 had prepared, impressed the public that they had all the answers to virtually everything, and in Barbados. And the crime, they jumped right into the IMF program, which was in being formulated long before they were in the government. And they came with programs with that. But where crime is concerned, where the linchpin of a society is concerned, crime, they found themselves unable to come up with any credible, coherent, effective programs. And the situation has gotten worse and worse. Ferdy said that he could remember the latest murder count. I think it's last night's event for the 26. That's the last count. Unless somebody who was injured died since then, I think it's 26. And that's a depressing number, 26 by almost the end of June. is a horrifying picture for Barbados, and we still have not yet gotten the impression the government is on top of things and they have answers to what I mean. I was glad to hear that at last the commissioner admitted publicly that we have gangs, and this is intra-gang warfare, assassination attempts, etc. That's intra-gang warfare. No, so they've admitted that they are gangs. My only problem is that I have no idea how many gangs there are. I think the police or the public a clear exposition of how many gangs there are, what are their names, what are their locations, and what are their general areas of operation, and their colors, their symbols, or whatnot. Because this is there's a counterculture that's grown up in Barbados. You should be able to identify them, to either avoid them, inform police, describe anything that you think that's happening untoward in society. We need that kind of information, and therefore that is a step in the right direction. But we have to come forward more and give them more than that. And the reason why I think I'm going back to my point about the public should not be called upon to do the work of the government. And this time, I was particularly concerned with the newspaper on Sunday when I saw the headline, Newton quits. Newton quit. Remember that Newton? You remember that Newton? Professor Newton had been appointed as chairperson of a citizen advisory a national advisory council on citizen security, right? And I had been myself thinking, well, this was September last year, was named by the Prime Minister. And I was thinking, well, we have not really been hearing much, right? Newton, we have not been hearing much, if any, from this committee. And only about 2 days ago, I said, I don't understand what's happening. Now, I understand that they had the social partnership had a meeting last Wednesday, at which Professor New was supposed to make a presentation to the social partnership on the work of the committee. But she was absent from the meeting, and I was told by a couple of people who were there that her excuse was blame on the fact stated that she was involved in performing grandmotherly duties and therefore could not attend the meeting. Now, and then we get the news that she had quit. So I think what has happened, this resignation from the post had been in the works, and it could not have been announced. So therefore, the powers that be were stalling for time, but then it beat them to it in the news. And I noticed that the Prime Minister has not paid any tribute or thank Professor Newton for her work. And therefore, I don't think, therefore, it has not gone through the channels, and therefore, this rating beat the government to announce her departure. And this committee, which Professor Newton had headed, was supposed to be a blue ribbon committee council to do a number of things to bring ideas from the public to the government. Again, the public doing the work of the government. And in quitting, she made some very interesting observations, Professor, and I quote her directly. However, the truth is that the offer was made, there's the offer to chair the council and accepted with too many factors not having been thought out and conveyed either to the public or to the council itself. In other words, it was a hastily put together council, and it reminded me And she said it had no secretary, had no resources. Only very few people attended because, as a Blue Ribbons council, where some of the best and brightest, or some of the major institutions in Barbados were involved, they would have their own duties and could not therefore be available to the meeting. But like she said, a 24-size committee or council, where they call it a committee of council, was immediately be obsocky and as she said, unwieldy to handle. So therefore, it could not function. It could not do its work. And now I am understanding why that is happening. But the fate of this committee, of this council, also reminded me of one that was called Economic Advisory and Job Creation Council, that was also created by the Prime Minister to get people. I think she wanted them to come with strategies and programs and policies to create 50,000 jobs in 3 years. 50,000 jobs. And that committee again had some very prominent persons on it, including the late Prime Minister Onyema Arthur. And I think she also, and there was also the former Finance Minister Chris Sinclair under the DLP that she had pilloried for all those years. He was on the member of that council. But the council came to naught. And after 2 or 3 meetings, when people saw it was going nowhere, it died a natural death because the Prime Minister, late Prime Minister Arthur stepped off, and it just ground to a halt. So this was again, and the rush to do this was apparently in reference to the Prime Minister after when he was leading the opposition had said that there was no reason why with the right policies Barbados could not create 30,000 jobs in 5 years. Then he became Prime Minister, a Minister of Finance, and he created 35,000. So in totally different circumstances, that was 1994, 95 and all, 94 hours. Now in this, they were being asked to create these jobs. Now, if if you could therefore read me if you can put up the slide for me on a flash. And I think the best Barbadians in parlance would say it was a hot and sweaty decision. It was a hot and sweaty council put together. On the other hand, in the Standard Dictionary, it would be described as a flash in the pan, which is defined as a sudden spasmodic effort that accomplishes nothing. A sudden spasmodic effort that accomplishes nothing is exactly what this council has done. Or another, something that appears promising but turns out to be disappointed or worthless. So there was a great hullabaloo of fanfare about this, about the creation of this council. And then it has come to naught. Nothing has gone on, come from it that would give the impression any input had been made into the fighting of crime by the government, by the police, by all the powers that be. And therefore, I am convinced that this was another attempt to get out of the public what the government could not, where is it unwilling or unable, a combination of the two, to come up with credible, effective policies to reduce all crime. And I don't believe, one of the reasons, I don't believe that even the Democratic Party, which had been invited to a meeting to sit on a committee on this part all of country, should do, because if the Democratic Party, as of the Prime Minister, was not good enough, valuable enough, effective enough, had the skills and whatnot to deserve to share the subvention the government, $150,000, where they have been starved out. If the one-man opposition, they didn't deserve that, why should the DLP use its scarce resources and scarce manpower to contribute to a cause when they're not good enough to benefit from the subvention and maintain their existence, make life easy for them, make them more functional, and also help to safeguard Democratic Party, the democratic system, and the two-party system, at least in Barbados. But before you do that, I thought I would also say that other countries, and we've heard a lot about about crime in Jamaica for years. Jamaica has been battling against almost impossible efforts. But recently, I read where Dr. Horace Chan, the Minister of National Security in Jamaica, has reported some very interesting um, developments in Jamaica. And this story came from the Censorship of June the 22nd. And it said Jamaica records historic 14-week decline in murders. Jamaica is experiencing a sustained period of reduced violence, with weekly murder counts at 8, remaining below 15 for 14 consecutive weeks since March 2025, the longest such stretch since in 25 years. Remember how Jamaica had this battle, uphill battle, and then, according to Mr. Chang, he said that their methods, they're okay. The government had undertaken to deliberate. The government had undertaken deliberate policy decisions and strategies, and deliberate policy decisions and strategic interventions. He said, including equipping law enforcement with the legal tools and authority needed to disrupt and dismantle criminal networks. To disrupt and dismantle criminal networks. That is something that we have not been hearing about, that people have been calling for in Barbados for the treatment for assault on crime, which we have not yet seen. We have not gotten the impression, the feeling, the perception that things were undermined, that there was a clear path cut ahead. Not that we expect the police to come and give us their details of their operations to tip off the criminal world. It's not that at all. We are saying that the public has to, if you want the public support, the public buy-in, if you want the public to see something, hear something, they must be convinced that that things are afoot, that there are programs and activities that would bring an improvement into their way of life. Because there's no doubt that we have seen a disturbance in the national mood, on outlook, on perspective that we've never seen before, and it cannot be doing the society any good. I noticed that the Commissioner of Police talked about describing the criminals as terrorists, domestic terrorists. Now this designation, this labeling of criminals in the Caribbean as domestic terrorists had been discussed a few months ago at the government conference. Probably the one I think the one that was held in Barbados, and that was one of the outcomes. I disagree with that label. I think crime in itself speaks for itself, and I don't think it was necessary to label the criminals as domestic terrorists. For among other things, I think it helps us to misread the situation. It gives a stigma not only to Barbados as a country, but Barbados as a country that depends on an international image for investment, for tourism, and from my understanding, for all I've read, from all the definitions I've read, that there's a different perception of crime, normal violence, as against terrorism. Terrorism recent anxieties and a violence that unbeknown to Barbados and most societies, and therefore to have your image of Barbados has a very strong brand for many years, a very highly respected brand to which people respond every year. And if you accept what the Ministry of Tourism, Minister of Tourism has said, that we have had the people in the hotel sector, Barbados Hotel Association, we've had a very strong winter season, extracted into the point where the hotels etc. are still doing very well. So Barbados' brand matters. Your brand matters. Freddie, as you know, you dealt with high-end
Yeah,
Your brand matters. So to link to
absolutely.
Barbados, a place that had been known for stability, openness, people walk around there. There was no
Yeah.
segregation between the then to be labeled a brand or competitors. I believe we do that against to get that into social media could do us a great deal of harm. And
We lost your volume for a moment there,
okay.
Glenn. But
I,
Glenn,
I,
if I could inject just for a moment here, because when you mention the word terrorists, because of what has transpired in the world over the last several years, I think it sends a frightening sentiment to people overseas on whom we depend so significantly for tourism. Because, it's one thing to have a country where you might have a high crime rate, because we know crime can be isolated in certain areas, and some people may still take a chance of coming to the country. But you take, for example, when I travel to the United States and I go into a mall today, Glenn, I go into a mall extremely cautiously,
right.
because I don't know if there's going to be a bombing. I don't know if somebody's going to walk in with a AK-47 or whatever and start to shoot everybody like we have seen over the last several years. So to hear the word terrorists, speaking of terrorism, um, it would not surprise me in the least if we see some travel warnings begin to be issued for Barbados with that statement.
Who can blame? Because all the embassies and high commissions, etc., in Barbados, all the diplomatic missions are required to report back to their headquarters what's happening in crime in the whole society. So if they send back, or if even include that, and this is not Barbados has not been labeled as a terrorist location. We, through the police, have sought, and the Caribbean have sought to label ourselves as a terrorist, as potential terrorists, because we have serious crime, violent crime. That remember one time it was described as a health. It was a health crisis, that a public health
Yes,
crisis,
yes,
and
yeah.
now it has moved from being a public health crisis to a terroristic action and activity.
If I could just read the definition of terrorism for the benefit of those who are watching, Glenn, it says terrorism is the use of violence and threats to intimidate or coerce, often to achieve political or ideological goals. And clearly, that is not the purpose of the criminal activity that we're having here in Barbados. That is not the goal of those type of activities whatsoever.
There's there's no ideology. There's no religious, racial
No, no, no.
between it. It is just that we have now developed this aspect of our criminal behavior and our criminal history.
Yeah.
But I think it's unfortunate. It's a self-inflicted wound that
Yes.
we've done to
And
ourselves.
and if I can mention as well, at the end of the day, Glenn, for whatever is talked, and I'm not even going, because I know you remember I had to jump off, and when I came back on, you were chatting about the words that the Deputy Prime Minister and Wilfred Abrams had shared and so on. So I won't go back to that. But
No,
it still does not answer a couple of questions, Glenn. How are the guns getting into Barbados?
that's right.
It
That's
doesn't
what.
answer that question. And to look at me and tell me that we need to do more as citizens, how many of us as citizens are going to put ourselves at risk? Because we don't know what we're going to be encountering out there now. We have no idea. We don't know if we go and somebody discovers that we have said something. Because they say what? If you see something, say something. I heard a gentleman on Brass Tacks today talking about the fact that he took that chance and things began to happen where he was concerned. So people are very afraid, if and I hate to use the word, to say anything when they see something that's going on in the country, because the fundamental feeling of the people in the country, Glenn, is that they are not safe. And the
And
number and the number one uh, criteria of a government
that's
by
right.
the World Economic Forum, Glenn, this is not misinformation, false information, Glenn or Ferdinand talking about it. The World
But
Economic Forum has defined the responsibility of government.
but all the political literature, all the social literature def- outlines that the first and primary and most important duty is for a government to create a stable, safe environment. No, nobody's ever quibbled on that yet.
Yeah.
Nobody have a chance at number one position. And therefore, I thought it was unfortunate too that the deputy prime minister, Minister Abrams, yesterday at the meeting in Christchurch East, were quibbling and again throwing their hands up in the air and passing the buck on where's the robustness and the confidence that they were going to take on the rest of the world. We're going to be number one in this and number. Where is that? That has been totally absent. And therefore, I would like to say that when I see this behavior on the part of the government, you probably might remember this song. There used to be a calypso many years ago out of Trinidad in the days of Eric Williams. I forgot who who sang the song, but the words that were the memorable lines were, "If you can't run the country, you should call in Kirpalani. If you can't run the country, you can
Yes, I
call in
remember.
Kirpalani." Right.
Yeah,
Kirpalani, as you know,
yeah, I
was
remember it.
a major business figure and business
Yeah, yeah.
conglomerate. Right. So I began to get that the government, no matter what it says, is not cutting it. And I therefore I'm saying that I look forward to Minister Kurt Humphrey speaking regularly, taking the country in his confidence. He has not said anything worthwhile yet, substantial about crime, even though he is Minister of Crime Defense. He is so that not even the media attaches that to his portfolio. And therefore, we want to see that come. We want more consistent performing information coming from the police on their own to keep the public and not under duress as a result of the accumulation of serious incidents that has happened over the weekend.
Well, Glenn, I tell you, I really want to thank you for taking the time of coming in. I know that you're not going to be able to stay with us for our next segment, and we'll be continuing this discussion with you in relation to crime because we want to hear some of the young people's perspectives on this. Because, of course, um, they're going to be the people in the future that are going to be most affected by this. As a matter of fact, they're the people right now that are being most affected by this. I was observing a number of the videos this evening relative, that you will pick up on the media, on the Facebook pages of the media, and I observed that the large percentage, if not all, of the people being led away from the court in handcuffs were young men, Glenn. I mean, able-bodied young men
But
that could
yeah,
be working and generating revenues and earning a living and running a business or these type of things. So obviously, you know,
if I can have one final comment on that, I think that is those young men are part of the Barbadian society, the Barbadian
mhm,
system everywhere. I don't think it's anybody's fault. It's something that's evolved out of the society.
mhm.
But I say, how do we get that? There was a report that 95% of the persons in charge of violent crimes read at the level of a 3-year-old.
Yes, I saw that report.
Right. That is a damning
It is.
con on Barbados for a place which
It
used to
is.
brag on 99, 98, and 98% literacy. If we want to turn that around, the
Yes,
first thing
yes,
you have to
we
do
do.
go to the base. You have to go to basics and launch an assault on illiteracy in Barbados, illiteracy and numeracy as a program. That otherwise all this talk about transformation and
It's just a
school
lot of
on
long talk.
yeah, because you'll be producing people who cannot contribute to that activity because they don't know the basics. When you're coding,
Yeah.
you have to be able to read, interpret, and express yourself too. So until we get like any other field, if you get the fundamentals wrong, you suffer it for any output and the results therefore. All
Well,
right.
Glenn, look, thanks so very much. I really appreciate you taking the time and the honor, for me, that is, of having you on the show tonight. I always really do consider it a tremendous honor. And one of these days, I probably will take the whole show just to read out all of your
Man,
accomplishments and
behave yourself.
achievements.
I want to be judged by what I say and do now. The past
Thank
is
you.
the past is history. All right. And,
Yes, I know, I know. Thank you so much, Glenn. God bless you. So
thank
sorry
you.
you can't stay with us for the remaining segments. Well, folk, we have some young men that are going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking about this criminal activity that is going on to stage. I am just checking to make sure they're all ready. Theory, I see you look like you're ready, so I'm going to pull you right on in and welcome you to the show tonight. I'm having a little challenge with some bandwidth. My computer actually shut down on me tonight, and I might have to call on you two gentlemen to come over at my home sometime and fix it. I don't know. So, but Theory, welcome, and Don, good to see you. I don't get to actually rub shoulders with you guys like I did last year. It was right. Um, Miss doing that a bit. But great to have you on the show tonight. I know that you all must be very concerned as just as young people and as young men in the society. Let me see, Don. I'm going to have to kind of turn to look. Okay,
That's all right.
all right.
I thought that's fine.
Yeah. But I'm sure you guys must be concerned about what's happening in our country, and really good to have you here to join us in the conversation tonight.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah.
And okay, we have Shakwani coming in. Wow, good evening, Shakwani. How are you doing?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm doing well.
Great to hear that. For those of you watching, this is a part of the team, if not the most of the team, that went to Washington last year to represent the people of Barbados before the International Commission on Human Rights with regards to the cybercrime bill. This was the team here. I can't remember if there was anybody else. I don't
No, it
think
wasn't
so.
on the team.
Huh?
No, it wasn't one of the members. It was.
You weren't on?
No,
Yes.
I didn't.
Oh yeah, right. That's right.
It was
Three
two
of
more.
us were on the team. Well, maybe I wanted you to be there so much I saw you when you weren't. So, but so good to have all of you on, and I'm sure each one of you must have something to say with regards to the condition of things in our country at the moment, from your perspective. And we're going to be gentlemen, right, guys? And we're going to let the lady lead off. Is that all right,
Sure.
Shakwani? So, Shakwani, go right ahead and share your thoughts, and we'll be coming back and discussing after each of you has shared your thoughts on how you see the state of affairs in the country at the moment.
Okay, the state of affairs in the country at the moment is absolutely ridiculous. It is horrible, it is harsh, and people are exhausting. Imagine that you're not even safe in your own home anymore. You've not forgotten to lock your doors. You've not left your windows open, but people are coming inside your house. When I saw the video of the door that was cut open by the chainsaw, I was appalled.
Yes.
I could not even
Yes.
imagine because I heard about it before I saw the video, and I said, "That is not in Barbados. That can't be Barbados. That can't be home." And when I saw it, I was like, "I have a wooden door at home. Most Bajans have wooden doors. This could be any one of us." And I feel like the government is not doing enough when it comes to protecting people, protecting the residents here, doing things to stop the crime and the violence in Barbados. It is extremely horrible and it's getting really bad. It's getting out of hand. When we think about how Barbados was before and thinking about it now, it is not the same. When you go outside, if you look outside your house right now, say at 8 o'clock, not that many people are outside anymore. It is not the same safe neighborhood where you will go for, where you will exercise or walk on the evening instead of doing it in the morning. Even the early morning workers, you don't see as many of those people on the road anymore due to the
Hmm.
fact that people are getting robbed early morning, in the daytime, at nighttime. There's literally no point in time where you are safe, and you are wondering where did we go wrong and how can we improve from this state. It is
Hmm.
the fear that you do not even know how to address it, because if you worry too much about it, you will never do anything. Yesterday I was at a meeting, and within 20 minutes I got a notice saying that there were 4 different shootings.
Yes, I got that.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you went from maybe there was a shooting once a month, maybe every couple of weeks, to almost every single day there's some kind of shooting, there's some kind of robbery, there's some kind of stabbing. And you're wondering, when will it be over?
Hmm. Hmm.
What is being done to address all of these issues?
Uh-huh.
And how can I feel safe when every single time people step outside, they leave work, people are being attacked? A nurse was attacked leaving work. Somebody who would save a life regardless of what you have done. you attack that person. So at no point there are no safe people anymore. I remember in the past where it was like almost a silent code of who you would attack or who you would rob. It's almost like they don't have anything, no conscience, no feelings. Like this could be your mother, this could be your father.
Yeah, those sentiments are no longer there, huh? Those sentiments are no longer with us.
No.
Well, you know, the thing is that and I don't know how many of you saw it, and theory of let me make sure I have the name correct, because I'm thinking of Taroni. I don't know why I'm thinking of Taroni. Theory, coming at you with this one. You know, we saw a video circulating with, I don't know if you saw it, with the taxi car that was shot up by gunmen. What kind of a message do you think this sends to the average Barbadian? Theory, how does it affect you? How does it impact us as a people?
Hey, good night, everyone. I didn't get a chance to see the video, but the pictures were circulating. Can you hear me very clearly?
Yeah, we can hear you, and I think Dave is putting some of them up there for us to see, so you might be able to go from that.
I think that the situations in Barbados happening for the last, we say, 4 or 5 months have been a lot of reprisal activities, right? Persons having certain vendettas against others, so they're taking it out on who they have problems with, right? Now, with respect to the taxi incident, I don't know why they shot at the taxi, but it sends a message that you are not safe and we can't get to you, right? No, the problem with it, obviously, that we don't want violence in our country, that's one. But two, imagine if there were children playing, our children during the gap while they shot at the taxi. They could have been hit with the bullets. So there's no cure for the innocent. There's no cure for persons who may not be involved to be, what's the best way to say it, hurt. They just want to attack who they want to attack and go about it how they feel. Like there's no rule of law in these situations. I believe that we have to be deeply concerned and be observant, because even though a person may have another problem with another individual and they choose to go and attack them, you could be innocently.
You could be collateral damage.
You could be collateral damage, and they do not care. I'm gonna use a perfect example. Jonathan Chase.
Yes, right? Actually, he was just running through my mind.
Great, perfect example. They shot at whoever they wanted to shoot at, and he was one of the innocent bystanders.
Yeah.
So there's no, as Shaquani said, there's no code anymore. It is do what they feel like doing. So we have to be very careful as the innocent bystanders.
Right.
The personal situation, we will never know. You know, there will be whispers. But my advice to fellow Barbadians is to keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and if somebody look funny, run.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Theory. Don, well, I know your dad was DPP at one time. I was beginning to wonder at some point if you were going to walk in his shoes and take on that legal role. But I don't know if you got to watch any of the Commissioner of Police's press conference today. I got to watch a bit of it and to see some comments with regards to it. But you know, for you guys, I don't know if this is a video that Dave has here.
Maybe play it real quick. I think it's only 2 minutes.
If he could play it for us, and we can hear what was said. But what is your reaction, Don? Once we finish listening to it, what's your reaction to what he shared today in his press conference?
He's going to
play it.
The chain of events began on Saturday, the 21st of June, 2025, during a social event held at a nightclub in St. Lawrence Gap. a patron, in an effort to bypass mandatory security checks, handed an illegal firearm to a co-host of that event, an individual not subject to search, to keep in his possession. That co-host, in turn, transferred the firearm to another individual. When the patron attempted to retrieve the weapon, he was informed that it had already been handed over to someone else. Enraged by this, the firearm owner, along with others, went to the residence of the event co-host and opened fire on his residence in the early hours of Sunday morning. Subsequently, the firearm owner, supported by a group of friends believed to be members of a gang, initiated a series of retaliatory attacks targeting rival members known to frequent Nelson Street and Cayfield areas. These were deliberate and coordinated acts of violence rooted in gang warfare. The unfolding events of the past 2 days should leave no doubt as to the gravity of the threat we now face. We are dealing with armed gangs warring against each other in public spaces and placing innocent lives at risk. This must strengthen our collective resolve, the collective resolve of all law-abiding citizens to support law enforcement in our national effort to uproot these criminal elements. The Barbados Police Service and the Barbados Defense Force will continue to act in unison to confront and suppress gang activity and all forms of domestic terrorism. We have spoken, we have pleaded with these lawless, violent gangs who have now declared open war on our society. The heinous acts of holding entire communities to ransom cannot be allowed to continue.
Yeah, I mean that was quite chilling. We haven't heard anything like that from any kind of Bajan government official in my lifetime. I definitely never heard anything as gruesome and not that my lifetime is as long as yours, Dr. Ferdinand. I don't know what y'all were talking about back in the day, but in recent times, in the last 2-3 decades, that is definitely not something that the regular Bajan would be used to hearing. And I mean, he hit all the points straight on the head. That was quite an unbiased, very straightforward, to the point address. Like, the situation is extremely dire. He's not trying to sugarcoat it or butter it up or anything. He's saying that we're dealing with gang warfare in the middle of the streets. And then in addition to that, it's not even just the gang warfare, because there are a huge rise in petty thefts as well. You're having nurses getting stabbed. You're having all kind of people getting, there was a viral video of the elderly man that got robbed. So lots of elderly people are getting their pension checks stolen at the post office. As I said, their nurses getting stabbed just for their handbag, which might have only had in, $100, $200. So at the end of the day, if the people of Barbados are this desperate all the time on almost an everyday basis now, it's a dreadful situation. Like, we have to live in this society for another 60, 70 years. There are people younger than us in their teenage and even pre-teenage years. And it's just really scary to see what they will have to live in if we don't do something immediately.
If we don't do something right now,
There are lots of people to blame. Yeah, obviously we can blame the government. They have very weak people in place dealing with these things. I think the Attorney General is very weak. He's a waste of time. He needs to be replaced. And at the end of the day, too, the crime prevention, the whole ministry, they started a whole ministry of crime prevention. They gave it an $11 million a year budget. Crime has soared during that time. So I don't know if the goal was prevention or if it was to manifest more crime, because it looked like if they spent the $11 million on manifesting more crime, because that's all that's happened.
But didn't the Attorney General tell us? Didn't the Attorney General tell us? And I'm just checking something here. About 4 years ago, guys, that the administration had a firm grip on crime. I mean, and in listening to the commissioner's comments, he said something that I made a note of. We now face, and I went like, how do you mean we now face? What planet are you living on? It's like this has only just started to happen, like this weekend or maybe this month. We've been facing this for the past 5 years, and it has got increasingly worse over that period of time.
We've broken the record for most murders in a year consistently for the last 3 years now.
As a matter of fact, when I look statistically at the number of murders in Barbados, someone actually sent it to me in virtue of the number of murders per capita compared to the United Kingdom's number of murders per capita. We are 400 times worse than the United Kingdom. I mean, this is insane, guys. So tell me something. What do you think? What do you think the Attorney General would be saying now? Was he telling us the truth back then, or what do you guys think? Shakwani, what do you think? Is he? I'm saying Attorney General, but I'm beginning to spread it out on the government. To be honest with you. Are they being honest with the people of Barbados? Can their comments and aspects be trusted?
Well, I don't know if he was telling the truth back then. Maybe he was telling his truth or a version of the truth that he believed. But from the average person who is in this every single day, who is experiencing this, I can imagine the persons who are getting robbed or attacked. They don't feel like crime started yesterday. So they're not reflecting what they're saying. What the government's position is that crime is now picking up or they're now seeing an increase. That is not what we were experiencing. We are accustomed to a safe society where you can run about, where you can be outside without hesitating. Now you're even questioning if you should let your child walk to school alone. Furthermore, if walk at all. So at this mere fact, I don't think that the government is doing enough. They're dropping the ball at every single aspect. There's no way how you create a ministry for something, and when after the creation, you see an increase in the area, you see an increase in crime, and then at no point you make any adjustments. You don't switch around people, you don't switch around your program, and then you implement additional programs like the peace program, where you're saying that this is to assist with reducing crime, and based on that factor, we're not seeing a reduction. Furthermore, we've seen the increase. So it's either your methods are not working or you're missing the point. And
no, I was just going to say that I think we have a video, Shakwani, with the Attorney General. I believe we do, and I don't know if it's this one here, Dave, that we can play it, and let's hear what he actually says.
In relation to the crime situation, I'm extremely pleased with the Royal Barbados Police Force. I'm confident that they have a solid grip on it. Yes, the public is justifiably concerned about the recent spike in shootings. These are things that happen in Barbados periodically. But what we need to do is we mustn't panic. We have to stay focused and get to the root causes. The issue of firearms, we've installed new scanning ability at the port. We've heightened our surveillance at the other ports of entry to try to stem the inflow of guns into Barbados. But the fact is that this is a situation where firearms had been coming into Barbados for quite some time. So we have to ferret those out. And the Royal Barbados Police Force has been doing an amazing job in staying on top of the situation. And I'm very confident in their work and in their work ethic. There are still some things to be done. I'm going to be speaking very soon about some new initiatives that we hope to embark on within, and obviously there's some details I won't be able to give. But I think that all in all, we are well served by the force, and they're doing a good job to make sure that our safety and stability persists. In relation to the
Before you go on to the next point, I just wanted you to address reports that the commissioner of police he will be retiring soon, and if
Well,
any
I don't know. I don't know
continue.
why we would say reports.
Can we pause it there for a minute, Dave? Guys, I I don't know why this government does not take responsibility for the state of affairs in the country at the moment. He is exceptionally disingenuous to suggest the guns were coming in for quite some time now. In other words, what I heard him saying was that this issue didn't start with us; it was happening way before we got here. And okay, maybe guns were getting into the country. I don't know. I don't operate in the port. I don't operate in the airport. I am not a customs officer.
Dr.
But
Ferdinand.
this is where you are now. You're 7 years in government. You cannot look back and blame anybody for where we are now. Coming to you, Shakwani. But here's the thing: wasn't it just last weekend we saw a customs officer arrested for corruption? And someone asked me today, is it any more difficult to pay a customs officer $300 to look the other way, or to pay him $30,000 to look the other way? Because you all know what's the price of them guns. You all know what these guns are worth. So if you're bringing in a container with 4 or 5 or 6 crates of guns in it, which could be valued in excess of $500,000, to pay somebody $30,000 to look the other way, especially in the times in which we live when things are really tough for people. Who's to say that that's not possible? Go ahead, Shakwani. You wanted to say something just now.
Yes, because he said something very important in that video where he stated that they replaced the scanners that was there previously underneath the DLP administration because guns were coming through the port, possibly through that method. And I am here thinking that if that is the statement that those guns were coming in and they replaced the scanners and they're still thinking that this is the method in which guns are coming into the country, I think they need to reach back out to the Democratic Labour Party and find out what scanners they had previously, because the scanners they have now currently installed seem to have more guns possibly coming into the country. Because if you're talking about, he spoke in that video about a one-off incident or a couple one-off incidents, and now we're having 3 and 4 shootings a day. That means that the method that they're utilizing to bring weapons into the country, it is either they're using, is either something is wrong with the new scanners they installed that they said that are better and improved, or they are definitely dropping the ball. And I believe that is a situation where it's both. They're dropping the ball, they don't want to find the guns, or they need to reach back out and find out what scanners were previously installed and reinstall them, because maybe it's faulty.
I pulled this out for a reason, guys. I think you all know what this is, right? Let me see if I can pull off the plastic, because I don't want the lighting. The lighting. I don't even know how to get your silly thing open. Okay, I think I got it. You guys know what this is, right? I'm sure you know what this is, because we've had people who have had their credit cards and so on scanned in airports, and so they manufactured these units that you could put your credit card in. I'm going somewhere with this, huh? You could put your credit card in, and nobody can scan it. Okay, and so what's to say that guys who are importing guns are not having them placed inside of containers that either cannot be scanned, cannot be seen into, or are seen or appear to be carrying something else, where there is maybe another level in the container that is not visible, and customs just lets it go through, and we don't know how intense those screenings are done. I mean, there's so many things left to question with it, theory.
Dr. Ferdinand, can we kindly have a serious conversation with the people of Barbados?
Yes, by all means, as young people, that's what they need to hear.
Thank you very much. What you said is potentially it's a scenario that could be done in the ports. That's one. Two, persons can easily break apart the different sections of the gun
Yes,
and
sir.
import them ease one by one until they finally get the full gun. That's two.
Mm-hmm.
And they said let's have a real conversation, a serious conversation, because at the end of the day, we need an overhaul of how we structure things, right? How we do things in this country. We mentioned that we don't have a Republican constitution, but when that occurs, we need to look at what are the powers of the different agencies of government and what will be the future of Barbados. This is my personal opinion. I don't take any offense to DLP or BLP having a different opinion to that. I don't believe that any country in this region currently is doing a good job at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We need an independent body that can come in and have oversight of what's going on. I'm going to put it this way. Just give you a scenario. Yeah, we know we have corruption in customs. But if we have an independent body, we just call it the RSA, Regional Security Agency, which is under the RSS, Regional Security System, that is observing the activities, saying list activities occurring. Say some sort of drug lord brings in something, whatever. And they don't have to go through the Prime Minister or necessarily a superintendent. To get approved from the commissioner, go for the person. Because they are the independent body. When you have persons who may, and I'm allegedly, I'm going to use my words extremely carefully, be involved in certain things, right? Then you can't have an outside perspective. A person who has an independent view, or I should really say, can be unbiased in their investigations. I'm not saying that the police are currently biased in the investigation. I'm just saying that they're, I don't want to use the word tone, but their ability to act is limited, given the political gravitas or the political reins that are held upon the Barbados Police Service. So what I am trying to say in the conclusion, this independent body, whenever it occurs, because I firmly believe it is necessary, that can come and do the sort of serious investigations, put together the task force across the different members of the security system, regional security system, and do the job. All right. So that was my serious conversation I wanted to have.
You're talking about something like the FBI?
Yes, sir.
Something like the FBI or Interpol or something like that.
Yes, but for the regional security system.
Yeah, which will work with our regional security system, because obviously they have a level of technology that our region simply does not have, and we got to face that reality. But they would have those aspects that could cooperate and work together with the regional security system to rein in this matter.
Not necessarily the FBI or Interpol. I'm
speaking. Yeah. We're just using them as examples.
Yes, please. Yeah. Our own version of that. Because if we do not have this independent body, I am telling you, for whenever the most they call him the Honorable Donnelly Cott, Minister CARICOM, when he gets into power, and Shaquani gets into power, I'm gonna be frank, y'all might not like what I have to say, but y'all gonna have the issue too. You're gonna have to face the issue too. But if y'all do not have an independent body, y'all can't accredit or what's the other word I would like to use? Y'all can't vote for all the members in your parliament. Some might be doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the future.
Yeah.
So you need a body that can come and say, look, I got you data rates.
That can scrutinize all the persons regardless of their position and engage it, and if necessary arrest. While you were speaking, I checked to see that Barbados is now 23 out of 180 countries. It's at level number 23 in terms of the corruption index, which means that we are the 23rd most corrupt country in the world out of 180 nations, and I think that is telling in terms of where we are at. I think Dave has this video here that we want to run, so that we want to hear this as a tourist, because obviously, as I'm sure you all would know, these matters will inevitably impact us economically. I understand that there is already a travel advisory issued by the United Kingdom. I'm checking on that to confirm it. But sorry.
I don't know, I might go because my friend, she's coming today.
Sorry, I just heard something in the background there. I understand that there's now been um, travel advisory issued where Barbados is concerned, where the UK is concerned. So obviously, and you know, once it's issued in the UK, we're going now into the European Union, where we are having people coming to Barbados, you know, for holidays and so forth, that may now reconsider going to another country, another island, or for that matter, another region. That's going to impact us economically. That's going to impact us socially. That is going to result in an increase in cost of living in Barbados. That is going to increase in significant sense of hopelessness. That is simply going to add fuel to fire. You know what I'm saying? So let's hear what this tourist has to say. Dave, go right ahead and let's listen. All right, we're not getting any audio with it, so just check your audio there. Make sure your audio is up. But guys, you know, I mean, this is deeply concerning.
Yeah,
This,
Dr. Ferdinand, I just wanted to say real quick on this because the current government has gone completely all in on tourism. Their biggest claim to fame this year so far is building 7 new resorts that nobody asked for. But since they're building these 7 new resorts, you would think that you would want the tourists to come to the safe, normal Barbados that they know and love. But the safe, normal Barbados they know, even if a tourist came here pre-COVID, not too long ago, 5-6 years ago, if they were to come back today, they'd be like, what on earth is this place? These prices are sky high. Crime is sky high. And those are the two main things. Like at the end of the day, our beautiful beaches can only carry us so far. If tourists like this video is really going to go viral. He doesn't speak with a full English accent. I'm not sure exactly where he's from, but people in his country are going to see this, and you might have had 2,000 of them every single year. And now none of them are going to come anymore. So at the end of the day, we're going to turn out like one of these old islands in the Bahamas that had luscious beaches. They built about 10 resorts on it, but now they're completely desolate. They're completely bankrupt. They're completely isolated because tourists are going to start coming if we don't do something about the crime immediately. So yeah, you could go ahead and play the video.
Yeah, Dave, go right ahead with it.
From the Jordan's market, which was closed, but while I was in front of the shop, I saw a motorcycle come from behind the corner, and before that I heard some sounds that, they sounded like gunshots, but I thought it was some tuned up car or something. But then I saw the motorcycle and I thought, weird, motorcycles don't make that sound, and I just went off. But now coming back to the street, I was thinking like maybe it was gunshots that were coming from here, so I don't know.
So you didn't actually see any person shooting again?
No, I didn't see anyone shoot. I didn't see any, nothing else. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you know the thing about it is that that is going to potentially go viral. I'm sure he has his own viewing audience, and as you know, somebody will air a video like that. Sometimes people tell us that we are crying down Barbados, and we are not. We are sharing here the truth. We've always tried to do that. We are sharing here what is happening, and to be brutally frank with you, the world does not need the Marcy Week show to know what is going on in Barbados. The government seems to think that we are concealed from the rest of the world. Those days are over. Those days are gone. The world knows what's happening across the world. And I'm thinking, and there's the travel advisory for Barbados by the government of the UK with regards to people coming here to Barbados. And I'm concerned. I'm concerned when I hear this kind of thing that will go all over the world. People will watch this show as well, and I'm sure that people who have come here over and over and over, Don and Shaquanian Theory, are concerned about our country because they don't know Barbados to be like this. They've never seen a Barbados like this. You know, they're used to coming, walking the streets, lying on the beaches, you know, going to Oystins or going to Baxter's Road. I don't know if you all are young enough or old enough to remember how they used to gather in Baxter's Road, and you know, for the fish eating and all of that, and
Yeah.
so on. I mean, you know.
But you see, Dr. Ferdinand, that's what separates our tourism product from the rest of the Caribbean. Our prices are so high, we can't really compete with like mass tourism destinations like Mexico or Montego Bay, Jamaica. We can't, because our prices are just simply too high. But what we can compete on is guaranteeing safety and peace of mind and all of these things. So that's why we get a different set of tourists than those other places get. Like, we just simply can't compete. But if we lose the only edge that we have, which is our safety, the tourists feel like they could catch the regular bus, like with everybody else. They can go into Oystins and same Baxter's Road, as you said, with everybody else. And that's the only thing we have that kind of keeps Barbados at the cream of the crop for the Caribbean tourism destinations. So if we lose that safety, we've lost the only thing that we're really competing on. Because you can't say that Barbados is like as beautiful as Jamaica or as affordable as Jamaica. We really aren't. That's the reality of it. The only thing we have is a couple good beaches and the safety. But you see, the safety means a lot for somebody who's traveling a couple thousand miles. So with that safety being gone at this point in time and probably into the near future, it's really the nail in the coffin for us.
Don, I'm going to just ask you if you could. Sorry, Theory. Don, I just want to ask you, Dave, if you could just roll that screen back down a bit. Don, if you could just read that that travel advisory. And funny enough, yeah, look at that. Funny enough, oh my goodness, look,
there is a high threat of terror.
I just want to make sure this is the UK. This is the UK travel advisory. Look at that. Go ahead, Dave. Don, read it from the top. It's the travel advisory from the UK. Go ahead.
Terrorism. There's a high threat of terrorist activity globally affecting UK interests and British nationals, including from groups and individuals who view the UK and British nationals as targets. Stay aware of your surroundings at all times. UK counter-terrorism policing has information and advice on staying safe abroad and what to do in the event of a terrorist attack. Terrorism in Barbados. Although there's no recent history of terrorism in Barbados, attacks cannot be ruled out. Crime. There have been incidents of violent crime, including armed robbery, sexual assault, gang-related shootings. There's been an increase in gang-related murders involving guns. Some incidents have taken place in populated and public areas. Take sensible precautions to protect your personal safety. Make sure your accommodation is secure. Take care when walking alone off busy main roads and taking money from ATMs. Avoid isolated areas, including beaches, particularly after dark. Only use licensed taxis. Take particular care around large gatherings, including street and beach parties, especially after dark or during the festival season. Wow. Do not carry large amounts of cash or wear expensive-looking jewelry. Leave valuables and travel documents in a safety deposit box or secure hotel space.
And that's the advice that's being given to their nationals traveling into Barbados. And you know,
well, you see, if I was to read this before coming to Barbados, I might just cancel the trip, because what was the point in coming?
Because you do want to come to enjoy the culture and the country.
The most concerning part of what I read just now for me was the around the national festival, because they're essentially saying be careful at crop over events. So
correct.
And that is where we get the majority of our tourism. Like, we only get money from, I would say, December to April during the year. The rest of the year is extremely dead for the whole economy. I would love to see the actual numbers, but our economy rises and falls drastically between the tourist season and the non-tourist season. And the only exception to that is the 2 to 3 week span of the crop over events. The economy picks back up. So the fact that England are directly targeting that as well, kind of cautioning away from coming at the specific festival time, that's a big red flag.
But Shakwani, when you hear these statements, when you read these statements that are being put out by another government, not by us, it makes me wonder, has the government seen this? Are they aware of these warnings? That I want to believe. Obviously, I'm asking a rhetorical question, and a sarcastic one, because the government must be aware that this is being put out by the UK government. And if that's the case, this is not a joke. This is not something where you can distract with some of the things that we're seeing. I call them red herrings, being dragged across the thing. But actually, before I come to you, Shakwani, I want to theory. You were talking about um, independent body, independent bodies to handle these matters. And I'm just thinking, in terms of what's running through your mind, because you're a young man, the future of the country is before you, and all of you are going to be contributing to the future of Barbados, and as you move ahead. What are some, along with what you shared, what do you think are some of the things that can be done on a local ground level? We appreciate having the regional security services and so forth, and I'll be watching something that the Deputy Prime Minister shared. But what do you think can be done, apart from the fact that it's government's responsibility to keep the country safe? What do you think are some of the things that we can do as a community? I've heard criticism of the church. I've heard all kinds of things. But in your mind, as a young, not just a young man, a young person in the country, what are some of the other things you think that we could do to help rein this entire thing in?
Ferdinand, I am thankful that you asked me that question. As I mentioned before, the republic that I would love to see Barbados become is something that can occur. And on that note, it has to be fundamentally, apologies, anchored with respect to community. When I say community, I'm looking at institutions such as Neighborhood Watch, that being an integral part of different neighborhoods or different sections or combinations of neighborhoods which will form that of a community, right? More community sporting programs. We have community food programs where you have community gardens, right? And most importantly, as a people, the government has been taking up so many loans. Why don't you invest in programs to increase the numbers of police? Something that always was strange to me. We have the cadet corps, Barbados Defense Force
Yes,
Cadet Corps.
yes.
But why don't we have the police explorers? If you're saying that you want to have better policing, better security in the country, you have to start to not necessarily target, but inspire individuals to say, look, I want to become a police. So I believe having a police explorer program in schools is something that must be implemented. So I'm just going to recap. One, we should be having something such as a neighborhood watch, not a suggestion, but a part of community governance, right? That is one. Two, we need to have better sporting program because children, young adults love sports. I've seen multiple situations in what persons would call ghettos or low income neighborhoods, and persons will have beef, man. And it will be like, I don't really about that. I want to play some football, even though they have an issue. Just say, man, I worry about. I playing football because they're able to get out that extra energy, that extra anguish. That's two. Three, we need to have community gardening, community food program, something that I always hail Tate Block for, right? The Tate neighborhood, but specifically the block, right? They have every day. I don't think it changed recently. We'll have to check, but every day because it was advertised on the news. Not advertised, but it was showcased on the news, right? Every day, persons in the community, and I'm talking about persons who are necessarily low income individuals, they can bring a potato, bring a piece of chicken, and they will put it in pots. And once you bring something, you could get something to eat. That's happening up there in Tate Hill, right? But it's happening
Wow.
specifically on the block. So community food programs I don't know about any other blocks are doing it, but you know for sure Tate Hill block they do it for sure, right? How the frequency of it, I don't know if it changed, but it used to be every day. So things like that should be standard. That should be integrated into the societal culture of Barbados. If we can do these things, we can teach the youth how to grow food. Teach the youth how to grow food and be a part of that vision. Then you're gonna start to see peer persons come together, because if I grow food with you together, if I can play with you together, we can play with each other. My apologies. If we can watch each other's backs, then you're gonna start to see a change. That's on the community level. It also mentioned, fourthly, with respect to the Police Explorers program, I want that to happen as soon as possible. I don't care who does it. It needs to happen, because you're gonna start to see persons. They're gonna be like, oh, I could potentially become a police officer. And my sixth point is that I believe somebody not that necessarily, but some of the loans that they're taking should be invested in increasing the numbers of police officers and increasing the pay of the police officers, which I iterated countless occasions on this show. So those 6 points, what we need to do locally. Thank you very much.
Excellent. But very quickly, Shakwani, because recently I heard a article, I heard a comment with relating to the educational level of persons in prison, or persons committing these what we would call heinous crimes, so to speak. And the comment had to do with some of them operating at some exceptionally low levels of education. There was a time that Barbados boasted of having a 98% literacy rate, in which every Barbadian could read and write. And what I heard recently, and I'm sure all of you must have heard it or heard something about it, relative to connecting the two together. What are your thoughts on that, Shakwani? The aspect of the educational development of the individual and what's happening in terms of these gang-related and crime-related activities.
I have made statements publicly saying that they're directly related. For the mere fact that when you can't communicate, you can't understand, you automatically get angry. So imagine you have many young people leaving school, not being able to read, leaving primary school, leaving secondary school, not being able to fully operate in society because they cannot function on their own. You have, and I don't think people understand, something as basic as filling out a form to work, they can't do on their own because they don't know how to read it.
Wow.
They may not even know how to spell their own name, because we're seeing people leaving school with that level of not being prepared. It's like we are just putting them out there into society and forgetting that people who can't understand, communicate to each other to resolve conflict will obviously take another option. And with that, we need to put serious programs in place to start combating it, starting as young as primary school. We need to stop this practice with promoting people if they're not ready for the promotion. There's no way if you're failing all of your subjects, you should still go up because there's a sentiment where nobody should stop down. That is ridiculous because we're just getting people promoted to get out of school. We have too many young men and women. When they leave school, they have nothing to do besides lame, look for trouble, look to attack somebody because they cannot operate or function in a 9 to 5 job. So they're looking for the rest of the hours of the night time. We have to realize that if we don't tackle this, if we do not create initiatives to help this, we are creating a bigger problem. Like you have said, they're experiencing a lot more people in prison not being able to communicate or read or write. So with that, what is the plan? You know that this is an issue. So what is the plan that you're going to put in place? And it cannot be just additional activities, partying. At some point, a party might want to read something. So you need to recognize that we have an issue. We identify how we want to fix it and start implementing the solutions. That is the only way we can go forward.
Just today I was chatting with a couple of people, and I don't, as a Christian minister, as a Christian period, right? Because I don't want people to see me as a minister who is devoid of being human. So I'm just a believer. And I don't like to be negative. I don't like to be pessimistic. I like to be optimistic. I like to be positive, but I also have to be realistic. And I was sharing with them today that unless we take some very serious action, we are going to lose a generation of young people. And I am not necessarily ignoring the current stock of young people. When I say that, you all would know what I mean, coming out of school in this secondary school level. But no, I'm looking at the younger ones coming into primary school. What can we start doing at that level that will begin to impact and bring about change as they progress through the educational system, that will not result in them just dropping out, and dropping into this category. And I'm aware of the fact that sometimes you can do the best for children. I don't think any of you all have children yet. I don't believe so. I have grands. I have 6 grandchildren.
I don't have any children.
And I'm just thinking, what can we do from those levels that would bring about the change and transition and help them develop even as entrepreneurs. It's like we wait too late to lead young people into the entrepreneurship aspect. Why don't we start treating that from early? Why don't we start engaging those aspects from very, very early in their lives, and helping to bring about change? And as I was saying, sometimes you can do your best. I know parents that do their best for children and they still turn out to be deviant. I, however, remember a comment, Don, I don't know if you might remember it, during his administration, President Obama made a comment about the African Americans in prison, and it was something along the lines that over 90 something percent, I think he indicated, of the African American persons incarcerated were from fatherless homes.
Yeah, is a lack
And
of a good role model, a lack of a good
that's
example.
really what I want to get at, the role model. Yes, go ahead.
Okay,
No, go ahead.
yeah, I would just yeah underscore that point for sure. Not have I was really really blessed. I would say that was my biggest blessing. No matter how short the time period was, I knew both of my parents, and they treated me with a lot of love and respect. And I think that's the biggest thing that a child can have. My dad passed away pretty early, but he still got to teach me for the few years we had him for. And most people don't even have that. There are a lot of children that grow up, they don't even know who their father is. And that's a more realistic scenario than my scenario, to be honest. So for all the people all across Barbados, America, everywhere, in America it's even tougher because they have institutional racism. Almost the system is set up in place so to create fatherless Black homes. Here in Barbados, it just kind of happens just because a lot of men just don't step up to the task of being that present father. But for our society to get any better, we can blame the government. We definitely can say that they're not doing enough. But a good set of this blame for the rise in crime does need to fall on parents' shoulders as well. Parents aren't parenting as well as they were before. And that's not a shot at any particular generation of parents, but I guess they're letting more devices run the children's lives. I know as a 5-year-old, if I was a 5-year-old boy in today's times, majority of the stuff I'd be looking at on YouTube would be, guns, drugs, all of that kind of stuff.
And the video games, the type of video games that you have.
The fact that we didn't have access to that, like I might sound old here, no, but when I was growing up, we didn't really have internet and stuff like that. Wi-Fi only came around, I remember when I was like 13, like for the very first time they had Wi-Fi, and you could like move the computer off of the current and walk around with it, and that was a mad thing. So
You came up. You came up in the days when you could move the computer. I remember in my day, and this was as a young man, not a child. There were computers you couldn't even lift to get them moved. But
Exactly.
John, but you remember, I go back as a child. I grew up with guns. I
Hmm.
grew up with the Lone Ranger. I don't know if you all heard anything about him. I grew up with the Lone Ranger in Tonto. I grew up with two six guns on my side and a white herb hat. I grew up with caps. These caps that you could roll into the gun and put into the gun. I grew up with those. I grew up playing what do you call it? Cowboys and Indians. I
Mm.
grew up that, but I haven't become a criminal. And so there are those persons who want to attribute the development of these aspects to the accessibility of guns, and to my mind, the jury is still a bit out on that because there are conflicting views where that is concerned. But I think what was critical for me was the influence of my parents, the influence of my
Mhm.
mother, who of course was a principal. She was a teacher. I was the youngest child, so she kept me under her wing. So I grew up with that influence, so to speak. I grew up respecting the fact that every person is a human being and deserving of the dignity of that. That was instilled in my mind. But listen, let's take a look at this caption here with the deputy prime minister. Dave, I don't know if you could bring it down for us as we begin. No, sorry, I should take it up, because the caption here, Theory, Shakwani, and Don, troubled me. It was almost like Bill Gates warning the world that there's going to be another pandemic. You know what I'm talking about? It's like
Yeah.
there's already a plan for another pandemic. There's already a plan for another crime wave, because the here are two of the most influential ministers of government warning of a new crime wave. How could you be warning us of a new crime wave? What are you suggesting with this warning? What signs are you seeing? And if you're seeing those signs, what are you doing about it? Are you suggesting that there's nothing you could do? So watch out. This is what's going to happen, guys. Your thoughts. Any of you can jump in and have a go at one after the other.
Dr. Ferdinand, I honestly, I'm confused. I'm wondering if they're saying that we should raise a white flag. We don't want to be a part of the crime because it's ridiculous. Why are you warning us? We can already see. We told you. Furthermore, we told the government that there's an issue on crime, because remember before they were saying that, oh, we don't really have an issue with crime. So now that they're now on the same level acknowledging that we have an issue with crime, you have a second wave. What are you doing to stop the second wave? What is the plan? What is the implementation? You cannot just say there's a second wave and not do anything. We know what the issues are. We've heard from the Commissioner of Police today of a whole detailed plan of what happened. We want to know what is the plan to stop it. Stop it at all levels, whether it is the white collar crime, it is the robberies, it is people getting shot, is the gang violence. We want to know what is the plan, even if they're tackling them one by one, but you can't just not tackle nothing at all and then tell us we need to prepare ourselves. How do we prepare? How do we brace? We're not even safe in our homes at this time, because as we can see, people can get into your house without the keys, without the locks, without going through the windows. So I want to know, what is the government's plan, even if it is just one element of crime that they're trying to protect Barbadians from? What is the plan? It is
Yeah,
about time that they roll out something to see how Barbadians can protect themselves, or what is their plan to stop crime from being this violent.
Dave, there is a paragraph there. I think just under the first picture, it's a paragraph that has this caption in it. It says, "The deputy prime minister, visibly moved as she spoke, revealed that of the 25 homicides reported in Barbados just days earlier, she personally knew 20 of the victims." I don't know if you can. There you go. There it is. And she says this is no longer something you read in a paper or see online. This is our reality. It's our communities, our children, our neighborhoods, and we're becoming numb to it. But when one and I don't know if you all were able to view a little earlier when I was commenting and Mr. Murray was commenting. Government's number one responsibility, listed by all international agencies, including the World Economic Forum, is to keep its citizens secure and safe. That is government's responsibility, to provide the environment, the framework, so to speak, for that to exist. So if you are in government and this is the statement you are making, the question we have for you is, what are you going to do about it? Theory.
What are they going to do about it?
You know,
I
I listed all six of the things. I mixed one or two that you stated. But what have you heard the government make any suggestions apart from blaming us as a citizenry? Because when you get down to, I think, the bottom of this article, and I'm coming back to your theory, don't think I'm not. When you get down to the bottom of this article, um, it's almost like if here you have Abrams, who's a member of Parliament for Christchurch. He's urged Barbadians to stop turning a blind eye and to speak up about illegal activities and dangerous influences festering in their own homes and neighborhoods. How easily do you think that is going to happen? Theory. Do you do how easy do you think it is for people in a household to snitch? Is that the word, snitch on their own family members?
that is not very easy. It's not very easy at all because one, you have persons who in their household is the culture, crime is the culture. That's one. Two, you have persons so afraid of their family member and what they would potentially do to them that they won't even dare to say anything against them or report them. And finally, the aspect of love. You know, I love you so much. And I know I mentioned Jonathan for a reason. The two boys who fatally shot him, rest in peace, Jonathan, it took his mother to say, you were wrong. I'm going to report you to the police. That was something that I I don't want to use the word impress, but it took a strong woman to realize what is right from wrong. So I said that to say this. The three negative connotations that I mentioned earlier with respect to this snitching is what it is. It's fear, it's love, or it's a culture, and we just criminals are. They're just criminals, you know. So the difficulty of it, I would say, I would put it up in of 89% percentile, something around there. So
Mhm.
we need a culture shift, and it can't. And I know everyone, whoever speaks about any issue, always say the government, the government, the government. But all it takes for the prime minister, the attorney general, say enough is enough, and then act, and the dominoes will fall. You will see everybody stand up and attack this issue full force, but it
Yeah,
has to start at the top.
but I think what is also needed, theory, is an admission. I think the country needs to hear the government admit that they have failed.
I agree.
And
I
you know,
wholeheartedly agree with
there
you.
is, there is nothing wrong with admitting you have failed. I think that is one of the first steps toward endearing trust in what you are going to be looking at going forward to do. Okay, you know, don't come talking to us all the time about. And here on the screen, I think Dave has it highlighted, because again, this is the deputy prime minister, whom I do know. I know her father quite well, and you know, I ran into her the other day at the licensing authority. We had a very amicable conversation. I like her, and incidentally, we don't hate anybody. I don't hate Mia Motley. I don't hate anybody. I may hate what you are not doing or doing. But I don't hate you. I can't hate you and remain the believer that I am. You know, so I know her, and I found her very. I really like her, to be honest. As I've conversed with her, I found her, a amicable person in that sense. But here she's saying, Barbados, Bradshaw issued a direct challenge to Barbadians, And I don't want to necessarily major on her. I want to major on the statement made, because this statement could have come from any of them. What are you doing to help stop this? Not the government, you. But to my mind, the government needs to put the mechanism in place that helps the community assist them in the process. And you talked about a number of different things. And I said I made some notes. You said that the government needs to stand up and say enough is enough, but I really believe that it has to start with the head of the government coming to the people and saying, look, we have not been successful in reining in this matter, and we need to sit down with you and hear from you to see the things that we can do. What you need help with, what are your suggestions and recommendations. Stop flying all over the world dealing with methane release and carbon dioxide, which only occupies 0.01% of the Earth's atmosphere, and get home and deal with the issues here. So yeah, go ahead, Shakwani.
On that point, she asked a very crucial question, but we need to ask the government this question: what are you doing to stop this? That is what the government needs to answer for the public. Because I saw somebody said in the comments a little bit earlier where they asked about the community policing, and with that, they need to add some more funding to that department. Get the community policing officers back into the community where they can start by doing programs and projects. When you have something that works, why are you not utilizing it? We talked about starting programs and getting initiatives to help the community. There's a department within the policing department that is utilized for something like that. We know that crime is very, very serious. It is getting worse now. Why not roll back out those officers in the community policing department, add more funding to their portfolio, and get the projects off the ground? We cannot do it alone. And if the government does not utilize the resources at their hand, we will be in a worse position. At this point, we are going to lose a generation that I don't even know how we can begin to pull it back if they do not start thinking that crime is a serious matter.
Thank you so much. I see Easy D saying, which government on earth is going to admit it's wrong? That's why we need a revolution in government and in governance. We need a revolution, because what we're dealing with here is pride. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with an arrogance and a pride. And what is it? What does the good book say? That pride cometh before destruction, or something like that, I think it says. I have run organizations, and there comes a point in time where I have had to admit to the contribution I have made to a particular problem or issue in the organization, and sit down with my colleagues to see what we can do to address it, correct it, improve it, or whatever it is. And this is one of the reasons I have felt that once, and you guys would know this, once elections are over, constituency meetings for party, Labour Party or Democratic Labour Party constituency meetings should cease. And what you should be having are constituency meetings for the constituency. In other words, it doesn't matter whether you're D, B, A, whatever you are, the constituency meeting, you now represent the constituency, you don't represent the party. And this is why I have said that in Parliament, there are 30 independent people sitting in Parliament. When you get into Parliament, you are not a BLP member. When you get into Parliament, you are not a DLP member. You are an independent candidate sitting in there representing however many thousand people from your constituency. You don't just represent Barbados Labour Party supporters. You don't just represent Democratic Labour Party supporters. You represent the entire constituency. So we need to hear from them with regards to that. Now, you all made a comment concerning, I think it was yourself, Theory, or Don, it was you that spoke about the millions of dollars that were being spent, or sorry, the millions of dollars that were directed to the police. And and I know recently we've had this discussion with the tint, which I think is a red herring. I'm just going to leave that there. Okay, let me just bypass that because there's a lot I could say concerning that. But I wonder, and I had this discussion with a police officer who was at our march recently. Have you ever seen a police officer in this country wearing a bulletproof vest?
No,
I'm
please.
talking about the special forces, not special forces. What you call task force? I'm talking about the ordinary police officer. Have you ever seen any of them in a bulletproof vest in recent months or years?
Not so often.
I haven't seen them. And one of the things I would want to think is that if you feel that one of the reasons you want to reduce the tint wear guard glass, the concern is that the policeman's safety is at risk because he cannot see who's in the vehicle or what their intent is. Wouldn't it make sense to ensure that all of your police officers, once they come on duty, are so equipped to protect themselves from persons who, regardless of tint or no tint, are going to have ill intent?
Yep.
Dr. Ferdinand, may I add something?
Sure.
I always say to myself, right? If any government ever spend money where they actually supposed to spend it, a country will soar. I said that to say this. There are vital agencies, institutions, it will even go as far as saying conglomerate level departments, right? And with respect to the impact they have on the community. Case in point, the police service. No, it's not a matter of police officers are not willing to go there and do what they have to do. But you hit it on the nail. They don't have the equipment. They don't have, the necessary support behind them. And it's something that's occurring all over the world. Oh, police this, police that, police that. We don't deal with the police. We don't like the police. This and that. No, I'm not going to say that all police, align with their job to protect and reassure. Some don't. Some just don't care. Some just love abusing the power. But the majority got into the service to serve people. And if any government ever, B, D, E, G, R, F, whatever random order, whoever comes, ever spends the correct amount of money on the Barbados Police Service, you can see so much improvement.
A big change.
A big change.
I have no doubt.
And I'm not going to look at it has to be a specific commission. Look at Trinidad. They just appointed Alistair Gavrado, I think that's his name, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. The man said, the commissioner said, we have a lot of work to be done, and he is doing the work day one. So it's not a matter of leadership, it's a matter of support, it's a matter of resources, it's a matter of you spending the money instead of going and spend money on things you don't need, in a little island like this. Let me deal.
$60 million on houses that we haven't gotten accountability for up to this point in time.
Exactly. Let me focus on the key issues, the key infrastructure, the key institutions, right? As I said, the conglomerate level. So they use conglomerate level in terms of impact. That when they have what they need, you're just like, wait, this is same Barbados. This is all yesterday. Can't be the case.
Yep.
Until that occurs, I'm sorry to say,
we're not going to be seeing things change.
You're not going to see nothing change.
Yeah.
And it's going to take for you. Oh, sorry, apologies. Continue.
No. You all guys stay here because we want to take some calls. I hope you all are ready to make some comments and answer some questions as they come in. Whatever is shared with us. 236-7000, folk. This is your time. We're a little bit into your time actually, but we are waiting your calls. Our team in the back is holding for your calls. 236-7000. And I mean, these young people have shared some tremendous solutions, some tremendous views. And there's a question I actually want to ask you all. It might sound like a totally ludicrous question, but I want to ask you all, but I want to give the folk an opportunity to call in. 236-7000. 1,000. Okay, first come, first serve. We don't mind you waiting. We don't mind you in a waiting line. Okay, just call 236-7000, and these young people that have contributed so tremendously tonight are here to take your comments, take your questions in terms of what you'd like to hear from them, what you think their ideas would be, or things that you would like to suggest or comments that you would like to make. While we're waiting for that call, guys, I want to ask a question. A lot is said about the block. All right. It's like the block is the source of hell. Okay. What are the kind of conversations that go on the block?
Well, I mean, I would tackle this one first.
And I'll interrupt you. I'll interrupt you as soon as I get notification for a call. Okay, it's not that I got bad manners. It's just we'll have a caller coming in, and I'll interrupt you when that happens. Okay, but go ahead, Don.
It's a lot of idle time. Lots of people are on the block, just genuinely because they were home bored. They ain't got nothing to do. There's no community center or anything positive or no sport going on in their area. And, as a young man, you just want to be outside where the action is, in the centers where the action is. And for majority of communities, that is the block. And when you go out onto the block, the most motivating and inspiring people on the block are going to be the dons on the block, the people that sell the most drugs. So when a young, impressionable teenager starts going out onto the block for the first couple times, their role model, already establishing that, quite a few people in Barbados grew up without a father, so no role model. The first real role model they see of success is a drug dealer, somebody selling drugs, or a shooter, somebody who does hits for a living. So then when you get a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, they're growing up, they're seeing that for years on end. This is what success looks like. And that's probably the worst part of it all, because all they needed was a slightly healthier, a slightly better environment, even if it was like at a sports club. If you live close to, I don't know, for example, Blenheim, and you live close to the National Sports Council, you'd have been able to go over there, start football, cricket, etc., etc. So it's really just you become a product of your environment. If all you see around you...
I have to cross you. Remember your last word. You see around you. Okay, remember that last word. We do have a caller. Okay, we do have a caller. Good evening and welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Please go right ahead and share your comments. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, we're hearing you.
Yeah, okay. So I don't believe that there's a specific thing that we could pin the crime problem on, but I believe that if we have greater action towards this crime problem, towards mitigating this crime problem, I believe that we could start to see solutions. Maybe we could try out certain things like have greater policing, stuff like that would help mitigate the problem in crime, But the main thing we should do is have greater action towards it, If we sit down and if we just sit down and try to come up with ideas on what we could do to mitigate it, that wouldn't mitigate the problem. I believe greater government action and greater police action would aid in mitigating the crime.
Now, when you say greater government action and greater police action, what are, in your mind, what are some of the things, and I don't necessarily want to hold you to it, but what are some of the things you think, even one or two, you don't have to go through a whole list, but what are some of the things you think could be engaged when you speak of greater action from the government, greater action from the police?
Well, as a person that is out here, on the road, catching the bus and seeing what's going on the floor, I am in a position to say that in the presence of police, Barbadians and the broader public seem to exercise a little more, what's the word? They're a little more disciplined when the police are around, you know? Like, for example, when in the bandstands and stuff like that, or on the side of the road, when the police stand up, these van men, they don't act the way they would usually do. They would do the right thing. So the greatest police presence, it could help solve the problem of crime. They got some whistleblowers out there that saying that Barbados will becoming a police state when they're seeing all these police presence and stuff like that, right? But I believe the greater police presence, you know.
Okay, so you believe if you could increase the number of police in the community, number of police on the streets, in other words, if their visibility level was raised by virtue of their numbers, that would help to deter persons from going down a particular path or something of that nature?
Yes.
Okay.
The second, you say that I could give two solutions to mitigate the problem. The second solution that would aid in mitigating the problem, right, is government regulation, specifically on the topic of legalizing marijuana. You understand? The main problem that we have with crime is the selling of drugs, primarily marijuana. And if the government had legalized marijuana, we won't be having this problem with marijuana. You understand? Because that's the main drug. That's the main drug that is be sold in Barbados. I mean, some people just talk about Molly and stuff like that, but marijuana is primarily sold, you know. And if there was greater government regulation around these drugs, I believe that people won't be demonized and stuff like that for holding marijuana. I remember when I was in school, they had a guy that was like, he was my age, and like, this was in like third form and stuff like that. And this guy's brain was fried because of the marijuana that he was smoking. You understand?
Yeah.
If there was greater government intervention on these topics, I believe that we won't have the same problem.
We wouldn't have those problems. Okay.
So make it legal only above the age of 18.
Okay, greater policing and greater government regulations. Thank you so very much, caller. Appreciate that so very much. And thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for not just calling, but thank you for the suggestions that you have made. Guys, any of you all want to comment on this as it relates to, just let me check here. I think we might have another, let me see here. I think we might have another caller on the line. Yes, in terms of the marijuana problem, or sorry, marijuana issue. Let's hear your thoughts on this, guys. I mean, I think you would have studies done and you know, from different parts of the world, and my mind goes to the U.S. and in certain areas of the U.S. the use and some of the causes and some of the impacts and so on. But what are your thoughts? I mean, you all are the younger generation. I don't know what you are, generation Z. You can't go past Z because there's no other.
We'd be millennials.
You'll be millennials. Okay, so the past Z, you move on to the millennials. Yes, your thoughts on this, guys?
The only thing I would say is that I just want to remind the caller that the marijuana is medicinally legal, and you can go to a shop in Worthing and tell a doctor that you got problems sleeping and buy it straight off the shelf completely legally right here in Barbados. So I just wanted to let him know that marijuana completely legal. Once any doctor in Barbados gives you a prescription for it now, I agree with him in the sense that it's something that the police don't need to be using resources on. Whatever is your personal opinion on marijuana, whether you think it's beneficial or detrimental to your health, that's besides the point. I agree with the caller's opinion on the fact that too much police resources are used on it, and it's demonized. At the end of the day, whether you think marijuana is, quote unquote, frying people's brains or not, the police don't need to be spending all their time and resources on it. There's enough actual crime here in Barbados that needs addressing, to do with guns and cocaine.
If it's identified as a source, of the issue, are we able, done from any studies done? A lot of the times we have to point to studies done overseas, because I don't know of studies that are done in Barbados to tell us, that the research is done that we can depend on or rely on or turn to, that can give us the information relative to Barbados, because of course what may pertain in another country does not necessarily translate within the context of our culture. We have another caller which we're going to take, so when we come back, Shakwani Theory, let's hear your comments with regards to that. Good evening and welcome to the Marcy Week show.
Good evening, Reverend.
Yes, good evening.
How are you doing?
Good evening. We're doing fine, thank you. And yourself?
You hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear.
Good. I'm calling from the diaspora, and I communicate with the diaspora a lot up here.
Wow.
And we are not happy at all about what's going on in all the island of Barbados. I was home not too long ago, and how is it that a returning nationals can know that these motorcycles are not legal to be riding around Barbados, and the police are not doing nothing about it? That's one thing that, we talk about. Two, is the defense force in Barbados waiting for World War III? Why are the defense force are not working with the police every day in Barbados to go and help fight the criminal activities that's going on in our island? We are very upset up here, man. It's like these things are so easy to get done, but nobody is doing nothing but talking. The politicians are talking, the police commissioners are talking. We got so much illegal stuff coming through the ports. And it is known, we in the diaspora know of these things, we hear these things, but why is it that nobody is getting caught, getting arrested, charged, nothing? Well, I have a lot of solutions. My solutions are too radical, for sure, right? I'm old school. But why is it that people in Barbados know these motorcycles are not legal? I mean, sometimes you gotta make sacrifice to make better. Those motorcycles should be knocked down. People can get hurt, but yes, when the people start attacking these criminals, then they can stop doing the nonsense. When I saw that video yesterday with these guys driving about the streets with motorcycles and guns, I was like, is this a movie? I mean, we are so upset up here, It's sad to see that 21 by 14 and it cannot be managed. What's going on in Barbados? Why is everybody talking? I was home, I went to my district, and the guys were in the street standing up, so I was driving my hire car, and one was like, who is he? So all the guys said, he? If he's in Barbados or one of the nonsense will be, won't be happening. But I'm not saying that, we got to be violent, but the Bible says an eye for an eye. Those few people in Barbados, it's not a whole lot, are destroying our country, and the other 280,000 are just talking about it. We need to retaliate, man, to stop this nonsense. The police can't do everything. Forget about the politicians, they are part of the crime. Citizens need to retaliate against these people. Back in the day when I had Rap Brown and Top Super, those kind of guys, the police guys, I know them personally. This nonsense won't be happening. We are allowing these things to happen to our country, and we are talking too much. Those guys are known. Everybody know them. and they should be attacked the same way they are attacking old people and innocent people. You got to fight back to stop the crime in Barbados. The police can't do everything.
So,
Okay.
caller, let me ask you quickly. Are you suggesting then, and I use this statement very cautiously because I don't want to misread anything that you're saying. Are you suggesting type of vigilante justice?
Listen, those guys are destroying Barbados, so we have to go after them too. I mean,
So are you suggesting then that the private citizens take the law into their own hands?
Yes, sir. We have to go to that extreme because they are destroying Barbados, and we are not. Barbadians are too afraid. I hear stories about people don't ever come out on the veranda, don't want to talk, nobody don't walk the street. They need a vigilante group in Barbados going after these people once and forever because the police is doing it, the defense force is doing it, and the government talking about a crap. So we need some people stay off the phones, don't plan nothing on the phone, and go there and go after them. Because then when they do it, the police will come after one. It could be stopped tomorrow because there's not a whole lot of criminals in Barbados. There's a few of them that doing the nonsense in Barbados, and they're getting away with it and got the whole country in a mess. It could be stopped in a month if we had a few good men that can decide to go there, get together, leave the phone home, and take care of these criminals. It will stop tomorrow. But the criminals know that Barbadians ain't doing nothing, and they're doing the same crap over and over. Big Sandy and two more seconds. I'm so mad, man.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling that you have. Well, listen, I appreciate you calling. Where are you calling from as a matter of interest? What part of the United States? If it's the States.
I'm calling from Mass. You know.
From where?
From Massachusetts. Reverend on the rest. Hey, Reverend, I'm your friend.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much.
People about have to go after these people hard. You can't sit back and say, oh, the police this. We need more police that. The police doing what they can, but the police need help. You know, leave with the phone home, set up a little private group and go after them hard. And this nonsense will stop tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your call too. We appreciate your comments and your opinion. That's one of the things with democracy theory. I see you got your two fingers up. Go right ahead. I remember where you were, Don. I hope you wrote down your note. Go ahead, Theory.
Not gone a long time.
Go ahead, Theory.
The caller is still on?
Sorry?
The caller is still on?
I believe so. They used
I think he believe he can hear me. I believe he can hear me.
Yeah, they can hear. They can hear on the video.
I firmly disagree with you. With absolute certainty. Because this is what's going to happen, right? You're going to have a vigilante group. They're going to go after these individuals. They're going to say they kill some. Then those gangsters that have friends and they are killed, they're going to go back after you. And guess what? You know the worst part about it, Dr. Ferdinand? With the I, innocent bystanders. So I say no. I say no to that. And anybody who listens to this that want to go to that route, you should be arrested now. Hands down.
Yeah.
I agree to be honest.
I agree with you. That's why we have a legal system, one of the things and that I've learned in terms of ministry is that the eye and a tooth for a tooth, given biblically, was a national position, not a personal one. The personal position Jesus expressed was forgiveness of the persons who wrong you, but the national position was a punishment or a demonstration from a national position where national laws were established in order to deal with situations that were happening in the country. So I agree with you, Theory. I think it's a very slippery slope, and I don't think that we're going to want to go there as a country. I think we want to remain a country of laws. The defense force is there, the what you call them, the task force is there, the police are there, and I think if more resources are given, the police can and the task force and the defense force can do their job. We have another caller on the line. Please go ahead, caller.
Good night to the young and the young at heart.
Well, y'all know you got her who he means. Yes, sir. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. Dearie.
I'm looking at the question asked by the um assistant, well, not assistant, by the
Deputy Prime Minister.
Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing to help stop this? Not the government, you. And I am asking her in response, what are you doing to support us? I have seen the government actually having a hands-off situation when it comes to crime. And to me, all that they're doing is to take the responsibility of themselves, because they're not taking responsibility for crime in the first place, but they're trying to take the responsibility of themselves and put it on the poor citizens. And then what are we really paying them to do? Haven't we voted for them to look after our interests? And then you are going to tell me, what are you going to do to help stop this? We employ you to help stop this. And you're saying not the government, you. It is you who we employed. It is you who we chose to represent us. So don't point your finger back at us and tell us that we are to do something about it. You're the one who's to give the police whatever they need to put crime to the ground. I mean, what young person seeing a prime minister putting the police one side, why would that person want to join the police force? And then you want to silence people through all different kinds of laws, and then you want people to do something about what is happening. Chances are you're going to try to silence the people also. I believe that the government has thrown their hands in the air because they don't want to do anything at all about crime. For some reason, they don't want to do anything about it. So the thing now is on the people to do something. But I think when you say, hey, God, I'm looking at strategy. Sometimes we have to look at the reason why people don't want to get involved in certain things. Maybe they have an ulterior motive. Suppose crime gets so heated in this country that there's a lockdown. Wouldn't that play into other people's hands? I think we have to be very careful when we see governments not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I'm looking at the ulterior motive. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, caller. Thank you. Very well put. I'm asking Dave to pull up a comment. Yeah, I'm asking Dave to pull up a comment there in the Deputy Prime Minister's speech. Dave, I sent you that little caption. If you could just go down through the speech and just highlight it. But I'm seeing a comment in the chat, guys, by Noel. He's saying the citizens in Jamaica are fighting back against the criminals and the crime rates are down. You all in Barbados are the problems with those criminals. But I would like to ask, what are the citizens in Jamaica doing? I would need to know what steps the citizens in Jamaica are taking, and I'm sure that whatever steps they're taking within the context of the law in Jamaica. We have another caller.
Oh yeah, I gotta run, Dr. Ferdinand. But as one point, I just want to leave everybody with there.
Yes,
a lot of our Bajan leaders like to talk about, oh, crime is a regional problem, crime is a global problem. But in Jamaica, year to date, their murders are down 21%, and they're one of the most dangerous places in the world. So whatever they're doing, it certainly is working. Whatever that government in Jamaica is doing, it certainly is working. Whether that's more economic prosperity in general, whether they're setting up youth programs, etc., etc. Mia Motley needs to call Andrew Holness and ask him, what are you doing to have crime down 21%? Because right now my crime is up 50% and I need your help. So she should have that conversation soon. Shaquani, Terry, good to see you all as always, and chat again soon.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Great to have you on, Don. God
Yeah.
bless you.
See you guys.
Caller, welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Please go ahead and make your comment or ask your question. We have two of the young people left.
Yes, good night, Fernand. Good night,
Good night.
Shakwani, my DLP comrade. Terry, this is Torino. That gentleman that first call talking about go after the gangs. What the gangs really need is going some help and a focus, as I always repeat myself, that's all there. Because the young people is being deprived and neglect from what they have in the future, right? But the thing is now, right? As you all say, wrong crop over, you gotta watch out for wrong Christmas time also. But what you really made it call to say, I feel that the government could put starts to get more active employment going on so they keep the youngsters more actively busy. Because when you're busy working, you got less time for crime. So basically, this unemployment is a very dire and serious crisis that's going on in Barbados, as I always talk about. So basically, when you check it, the estimate, the more crime, the less tourists. And the less tourists means what? Less employment of circulation going in the country, right? So when people was talking about go after the gangs and go after this and that, people need to go after the government. We need to go after my money DLP. Because they say give me the vote and watch me. We should watch them doing something great and do something good. Not destroying the country. I got the country in darkness.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, sir. I appreciate your calling, but I did notice something that he said, Shakwani and the theory. He talked about unemployment. And to the best of my knowledge, I was checking just today that the IMF issued a $60 million loan to the Barbados government as a part of the conclusion of the BERT program. And in doing so, they commented about how the economy had grown 4-point-something%. And the government always talks about how unemployment is down. And if unemployment is down, I would want to think that there are less persons on the street in terms of committing these acts, these unlawful acts. And I'm wondering if it is really relative to unemployment or if there is something else, because you could have a significant level of employment in your country and still have this activity. And so I am just wondering what is contributing, because we do want solutions, don't we, guys? We don't just want to be discussing the problem and the issues, and it's one of the things that I appreciate you young people sharing, because you see things from a different viewpoint. And very often you see things, I'm almost tempted to say from an AI viewpoint, because you are into that era of artificial intelligence, and you're into that era of technological capabilities and so on, which back in my day, we didn't have those kind of things. So I'd like to hear, some of your comments with relations to that. And then I made a note here, and I don't know what you think of this theory. But a lot of young people are into video games and into the internet and so on. And I'm just wondering, was a possibility, or is it possible that you could set up a community video game competition, just like how you're doing road tennis, or just like how you're doing cricket, or just like how you're doing basketball, or just like how you're doing netball, because so many of the young people are into technology. I have a little how old is our granddaughter now? 5 years old. I think I have a little granddaughter, 5 years old, and she knows how to use a tablet almost better than I do, which is a bit embarrassing. I shouldn't have said that publicly. But but your thoughts, guys, in terms of the aspect of employment and still having the a high level of criminal activity, what would be feeding into that, and the possibility of having technological involvement, whether they're games or something of that line, or anything of that line, along in terms of the community.
Dr. Ferdinand, before I give my response, I want to give an example, a real life example. A person, while I was on the road, while I was canvassing, spoke to me, and they basically said like they're having real difficulty getting a job. They have a charge for possession, for small quantity possession, and no matter what they do, they try, they're not getting any opportunities to get a job. But then they see other persons who would have been charged for murder and stuff like that getting jobs, and they're wondering what are they doing, how are they getting these jobs, and what are they supposed to do, because nobody's calling them back, nobody's getting back to them, and they feel at this point they have no way to turn. The question was, do I turn to crime? Because that is what it feels like when they don't have any options, when they're trying everything, where they're going to the programs, they're going to apply, they're asking for assistance. They also make statements like nobody, even when they submit application forms, nobody's giving them feedback, so they don't even know exactly why they didn't get the job or how they can improve for the next segment. So for them, they're truly frustrated. And I know he is not the only one, for the mere fact that that is very common amongst one, people who have like small charges, or people who want to decide like they want to shift their lifestyle. Say I want to get out of crime. People always talk about, oh, we have a lot of people committing crime, but getting out of that life is really difficult as well. There's not a lot of programs in place to help them transition into a regular lifestyle. There's not a lot of opportunities for them to get jobs. And then when they get these opportunities, sometimes they don't even know what to do because the mere fact they are not given the choice is not them, it is somebody else. Somebody actually told me it's like friends and family, and unfortunately they don't have friends or family in those job fields, so they can't get the opportunities. And that is the same thing young people who are studying, coming out, leaving with their degrees, are facing. Friends and families, when you get to the job place, or when you submit when you submit your request for the job.
We got another caller coming into us. Good evening. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Please go right ahead and make your contribution.
Good evening, Pastor Ferdy. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. And yourself?
You're good, old mate.
Okay.
And well,
and I got some young mates with me here on the team.
And Don.
Yes.
I would like to take a slightly different tangent to the problem.
Okay.
And this is looking at it from a socio-economic side, which could very well be a major causative agent of what we are seeing. But I would like to just caution Don there that to have a fried brain is like having another dead person. We've got to protect people from themselves. You know, after you've had your children and you see the problems that these children could get into, you know, you may have 3 sons and 2 of them brains fried. Whoa. Be that as it may. Pastor Ferdy, the thing I'm looking at is show me a state, a jurisdiction in Central America, the South America, the Caribbean, that has been plunged into deep IMF programs, whether it is one with a devaluation of currency, or as is in the case with us, that after a while, crime and the type of crime that we are seeing does not creep in. It has nothing to do with the letters. It has nothing to do with it is the lender of last resort. Yes, we have to go to them after we've got problems with our balance of payments, etc., etc. But I ask myself, upon hindsight, having read some very good publications about where the IMF has been and the fallout, I can speak confidently that this is just one of the side reactions to the harsh medication that we are having, or that we are taking. The first thing the IMF tells you is you must cut expenditure.
Correct. That means cutting jobs.
You must cut expenditure. So you have to send home people. And you've got to start discriminating and meeting with the unions to find out who to send home and not who to send home. You don't always get your money on time. Okay? Everything then begins to fade.
To fall apart.
Plan, the health plan. The next thing they tell you is privatize. And in privatizing, a man doesn't go into a private enterprise to lose money. So you privatize airports, seaports, prisons, hospitals, garbage. You know why? The IMF must get their money back first. And I would go blue in the face and continue to say that. And this is where we are. So I asked myself, did we have the correct restructuring program? Could it have been less strenuous? The haircut, the amount of people going home. You see, and as Thierry said, if you're in an environment where somebody in the household is keeping that environment or that community up, who's keeping the electricity on, who is keeping the water on, who still see that the children get a weekend meal, you really think you're going to snitch on that? The other thing is, and somebody else mentioned it, you have to look at paying your police better. You have to look at upping the numbers. You have to look at paying your nurses better. You've got to look at paying your teachers, nurses, and police better. The taxes that we have to pay, the fees that we have to pay are all applied, and we cannot move them. We can't touch that tax on water. We can't touch those taxes on fuel. Or else we will not be able to pay the IMF. I remember, and I'm going to move out now. I remember Mr. Arthur saying, man, look, you could have given me the restructuring job. I would have done it for free for the country. And I think we've come to a point now where crime is a way of existing. If you squeeze the north, just watch how it moves. If you squeeze it in the north, it balloons in the southeast. If you squeeze it, it balloons in the central. Because you have to exist. As a friend of mine says, if you corner a rat, he's going to rush at you. But before I go off, I'll say this. The government came to office, I don't like to use the word power, by saying, we know what to do. We have the solution. You had a wrong one, you didn't, you failed, you said it's COVID. Now you're wrong too, and I detect hands being thrown in the air. I remember the same, at Barbados would say, the same Federal Minister, Bradshaw, saying at a similar meeting in her constituency to the parents, if the teachers touch your children, call the police for them. Yeah. That Sunday evening, she was speaking to her constituents in the Pine, and that is what she said. And I never, ever forget that. So this is where I will leave you this evening. Wish you a good night.
Thank you.
It is just not a simple stroke of the pen by bringing the new solutions by the commissioner to see if we could. The moment we started to get one killing per week, I said there was nothing in place as a restoring force to bring that back to equilibrium. I saw nothing, and it's going to go beyond one. You know, this is how you could predict how a pandemic or an epidemic moves.
Yes,
gone on that curve, and you've got to do something very, very stringent, very stringent to get it back less than one per week. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you so much for your. I really appreciate your comments and your referencing and connection. I have to call you
privately and talk with you. Get back to some old time talk.
Okay, no problem at all. Not at all. Okay, you can get my number from Mars.
All right.
Okay, that's fine. Ready. Guys, you know, I have to say that there is no singular solution to the matter. I think government has the responsibility of providing the framework, however that is, for the aspects of safety and security to be engaged, whether it be through the police, through the task force, through the defense force, making provision from a legal standpoint, more stringent laws. But again, of course, when you have laws, the issue are not the laws, the issue is the implementation of them. The issue is, if you have if you have written a law, you put a law in place, but then what you want to do is you want to make sure that that law is adhered to. So I believe that failure to enforce that legislation is also a contributing factor. We can see that with things like the minibuses and loud music and all that kind of thing. You guys know what I'm talking about. I think the caller has sought to make the connection between our indebtedness and the demands of that indebtedness that it has brought to bear on the employment aspect in Barbados. And I believe they're correct in terms of having to cut staff, and these are things that are critically important. But guys, listen, we have unfortunately run out of time. We've come to the end of our program. We've covered a lot of ground tonight, really, and I really appreciated hearing from you all. And I think young people need to be engaged. One of the things I've always complained about is that government tends to make policy for young people without sitting down and talking with them and finding out, what's going on and what they want to do. I made a note here with regards to if government can be borrowing all this money, what about starting an entrepreneurial program for young people? Providing the funding for them in terms of grants, helping them with, we can call them, uh, what do you call them again? The persons who you look to. Oh, dear me, the word slips me, but Shaquan, you know what I mean. Um, word slips me, but anyhow, with persons who are in business and so on before that they can get some guidance, and that person can kind of work alongside of them until they get to a place where the businesses are successful.
Apprenticeship, yeah, mentorship.
Apprenticeship, yes, that's it. Where these things can funding can be provided for their own business. One of the things that our educational system has failed in is developing entrepreneurs. We are developing our young people to go to work for somebody. We're not developing young people to establish their own businesses. I understand a significant portion, somewhere between 70 to 76% of the Trinidad economy is entrepreneurship. And it's important that young people realize that there's more to work than just applying for a job. If they can be given the opportunity, help with the initial funding, because many of them don't have the resources. And then even if you can go to fund access, then you have to try and get what you call them again, the people. What's the name of the people you have to? My mind slips me again tonight. You guys know what I mean. Folks, security, the people that will give you the security if you don't have the money. Guarantors, that's the word I'm looking for. And so if government if they can get $60 million to build houses, or 200 something million dollars, or $50 million to refurbish a oval, a sporting facility, they should be able to get the money to help with the establishment of businesses for young people. Even if it is cutting lawns, or the coconut guys that are by the street, helping them to develop a more professional aspect of their business, rather than just staying in that context all the time and using the shells, for example. There are machines that actually take those coconut shells and grind them up and process them for fertilizer, and for beautifying garden beds and all that kind of stuff. So maybe these are some of the things that we can look at. But as young people, I'd like to hear in our closing moments your closing comments, in the context of everything that we've shared. I really have appreciated all of you sharing tonight, and I know that the loyal opposition has been absolutely blessed by what you all have shared together this evening. So your closing comments, Shakwani, I'm going to let you go first again as the lady in our midst, Theory. I trust you don't mind. I'm certain you don't mind because I know you were brought up putting the ladies first, right? So, Shakwani, your closing comments.
My closing comments would be we need more solutions from the government where we see where they are implementing their action plan. It's about time, is long enough. Barbadians want to feel safe again, and to feel safe, we need to see some type of change happening. And I feel it's better to have it now rather than later. We all want to see tomorrow, and to have that, we need them to make sure that tomorrow is possible for us.
Thank you so very much. I like that. Tomorrow is possible for us. Theory, your closing comments.
For my closing comments, I don't have much to say, but this Barbadians, please, I beg you, be vigilant and use your ears. If you get a tingle in the back of your head saying telling you that this ain't right, run. If you see something that don't make sense, run. Protect yourself. Don't, as my great grandmother said, trust very little. Simple as that. We cannot depend on this government to keep us safe. So keep yourself safe. And I am not encouraging you in that vigilante behavior. But if you go protect yourself, protect yourself. Keep safe until some hero could come or heroine. Heroine, so my apologies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Theory and Shakwani, and of course Don. And we don't want to forget Mr. Murray, who shared earlier in the program tonight. But I've really been blessed by listening to you guys and listening to some of the solutions that, as young people, you are offering to us as a country in order to rein in our condition in the country at the moment. Let me remind you of the St. Philip Get Thee Behind Me Satan motorcade and prayer drive, a time of prayer, a call to unity. We do want to pray for our country folk. I don't think this is an issue. I won't get into any of that. You know, the national anthem establishes the Lord has been the people's guide, and we want him to represent us in this country again. The national anthem says, with him still on the people's side, we have no doubts or fears. And I like that. With him still on, and he still is on the people's side. And I want to encourage you, while I endorse what Theory has said, don't be afraid. You know, guard yourself, protect yourself. We don't really want that vigilante justice to emerge. We need to take a look, Shakwani and Theory, at what is happening in Jamaica and see what has been implemented in Jamaica that has brought about the result, and what is happening in Trinidad that can be culturalized, so to speak, for Barbados, that would help in reducing our crisis here in the country. So I really do want to thank you both, and Don in his absence, for the tremendous contribution that you've made tonight. I hope you can be back on again. And I hope if you're back on again, I get the opportunity to host the show with you, because it's been my honor to have you all three of you, share with us tonight. The ideas coming forth, theory to do with the regional security system, with the accountability, with the capacity to arrest from the prime minister back down if they have to, to be an independent body. I think that's very, very important. And so I want to thank both of you. And of course, where would we be without the loyal opposition, without Dave and Mars in the background? So we want to remind you of this motorcade on Sunday. This is this coming Sunday, June the 29th. It starts at Chanel Supermarket car park in St. Martin, and it ends at Six Roads near the Nichols Bakery in Six Roads. And it's going to be from 1:30 in the afternoon to 6 p.m. in the evening. There'll be a lot of joint ministry of the gospel community leaders and fellow residents. And we encourage you to bring your family, and let's come together as a parish in St. Philip, which has gone through quite a bit. In solemn unity, we stand with all victims of violence in support of every resident seeking peace and protection. So we want to encourage you to join us this coming Sunday afternoon, 1:30, from the Chanel Supermarket in Chanel Supermarket car park in St. Martin, right through to Six Roads near the Nichols Bakery for a tremendous evening as we come together to stand in unity for our country. Remember our pledge. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living, to do credit to my nation wherever I go. Thank you for being with us tonight, loyal opposition. Thank you, Theory and Shakwani and Don and Glyne, for giving me the honor of being the host in the show with you all on tonight. Thank you, Dave, for your tremendous support. And thank you all in the loyal opposition. Without you, we could not have this show. And so we are really grateful for your faithfulness and your commitment to the Marcy Week show. So until next time we're together, have a great, great evening, a great night. And remember, folk, rest well. Don't worry. God's got this. All right? And He's got an eye to watch over you. God bless you. Good night.
The devil will here, so please be aware. The devil on the loose, the devil on the loose. So protect your soul, cause he's on a roll. The devil on the loose, the devil on the loose. So don't be a victim, keep resisting. Hold on to your children, keep protecting. I mean the devil comes, well you just have to say, yeah, yeah. Get out behind me, Satan. Get out behind me, Satan. Push back on the devil, push back on the devil. Don't get caught in this spell, cause you will not fare well. The thing to do is simply tell the devil, go to hell. The devil, the devil, the devil, watch the devil. He will not relent, cause he is hell-bent. The devil on the loose, the devil on the loose. This guy as well, you just cannot tell. It's the devil on the loose, the devil on the loose. So don't be a victim, keep resisting. Hold on to your children, keep protecting. I mean the devil comes, well you just have to say, yeah, yeah. Get out behind me, Satan. Get out behind me, Satan. Push back on the devil, push back on the devil. Don't get caught in this spell, cause you will not fare well. The thing to do is simply tell the devil, go to hell. The devil, the devil, the devil, watch the devil, the devil, the devil, the devil. All around you temptation, look around you temptation. All around you temptation, look around you temptation. Just say, yeah, yeah. Get out behind me, Satan. Get out behind me, Satan. Push back on the devil, push back on the devil. The thing to do is simply tell the devil, go to hell. Get out behind me, Satan. Get out behind me, Satan. Push back on the devil, push back on the devil. Don't get caught in this spell, cause you will not fare well. The thing to do is simply tell the devil, go to hell. The devil, the devil, the devil, watch the devil, the devil, the devil, the devil. All around you, all the devil, the devil, the devil, watch the devil, the devil, the devil, the devil. All around you, all the devil, the devil, the devil, watch the devil, the devil, the devil, the devil, watch the devil.
Good night, and God bless you. Have a great, great night, folks. Bye-bye.